not ready, but okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the school committee to order on April 6th at 7 o'clock. I'd like to read the mission statement of the Douglas Public Schools. The Douglas Public Schools offers a diverse learning experience that meets the academic, social, physical, and emotional needs of all students. We provide a safe, supportive, and challenging learning environment in which students may achieve academic success and personal growth. Decisions are made in the best interest of our students. Let's rise for a Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call our student representative, Sophia Shakara. Sherrier, sorry, I screw it up every time.
Good evening, my name is Sophia Sherrier and I'm a senior at the high school. I'm here to share with you some of the news and events of what's been happening at our school. First off, spring sports have had a successful kickoff at DHS. The varsity baseball team had their first game Monday with their first victory against Maynard, setting the tone for a great season. The varsity track team has had an exciting beginning to their season as well, as they're preparing for a home meet tomorrow against Nipmuc at 3:30. The Douglas Co-op lacrosse team with Hopedale also faced off against Auburn yesterday, securing a 9-8 win. And the varsity softball team kicked off its season yesterday with a win of 12-11 against Bartlett. The user fee for spring sports is $180 and is now due if your child is playing, where checks can be made payable to the town of Douglas. Be sure to follow the Douglas Athletics Instagram for updates on all things sports. In other news from the Douglas Athletic Department, the Athletic Boosters are holding the 34th Annual Tiger Open Golf Tournament on May 14th at 1 p.m. at Blissful Meadows Golf Club in Uxbridge. Fees are $130 per golfer or $520 for a foursome, and registration can be completed online. In other updates, over the month of March, the DHS Band and Color Guard have marched in several St. Patrick's Day parades, including Pawtucket, Worcester, and Providence. On March 13th, the band marched in the Worcester St. Patrick's Day Parade, where it was announced that they were awarded Best High School Band. Furthermore, Winter Carnival took place on March 11th, with the entire student population at DHS demonstrating their abundant school and class spirit, while fiercely competing in various events like Gator Ball and volleyball, relay races, games like Family Feud and Quiz Bowl, window and wall decorating, and the infamous lip sync performances. In other exciting news in student life, the annual Douglas Tiger Jam concert took place last Friday in the DHS auditorium. Students across the high school, middle school, and elementary schools had the opportunity to showcase their musical talents for an audience of thrilled attendees. Students who were part of the Spice Club and GSA also participated in the Connections Conference at Sutton High School on Friday, March 18th, along with 40 other schools from around New England, where they had the opportunity to listen to one another's experiences, support those who are disadvantaged by systemic oppression or prejudice, and attend engaging workshops and make valuable connections. To highlight other accomplishments of DHS students, Mr. G&A's manufacturing, technology, engineering, and drafting classes had 27 students earn a MACWIC certification this year, with the group demonstrating their proficiency and hard work with an 84% passing rate. Moreover, the senior class trip to Disney is also rapidly approaching, where there will be a mandatory parent-guardian meeting on Tuesday, April 12th at 6 p.m. in the cafeteria to go over last-minute info and collect parent and guardian information. Students must also be accompanied by a parent or guardian on Wednesday, April 20th between 6 and 7 p.m. for a luggage check. Students must bring their checked luggage and their carry-ons. Additionally, the DHS prom will also take place on April 14th from 6 to 10 p.m. at the Pleasant Valley Country Club in Sutton for a night of festivities, including a buffet dinner and Sunday bar. Lastly, third quarter report cards were issued today. SATs will take place next Wednesday, the 13th, and spring break is around the corner from April 15th to April 22nd. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a good evening.
Before you go away.
Oh, yeah, we have a question, and it's a big question. Where did you get in for college?
I actually got into Harvard, my dream school. Awesome. So I'll be majoring in political science there. So.
But don't sell yourself short. Where else did you get in?
I also got into Brown and Princeton as well.
Awesome job.
So that's 2 years in a row of an Ivy League, because we had Princeton last year and now you're following, so that's awesome.
Thank you.
Recognized by people in the class last year. That's awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you so much.
We'll now open the floor up for public comment. The School committee welcomes public comment on items that were in the scope of the school committee's purview. The public comment agenda is reserved for this purpose. If we have anybody here for public comment, they're welcome to come up to the mic. Please state your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Beth Bergstrom of 26 North Street here in Douglas, and I'm here as a mom, but I'm also here as a CPAC coordinator tonight. Last time you guys convened the meeting, Ms. Sobleski gave a presentation about her upcoming budget proposal for next year. She was gracious enough to come to our CPAC meeting and present that to us. It was met with mixed reviews from families as well as from staff and students. I think some of the really positive things is the reading specialists in the younger grades, giving continuity. That's been a big ask that families have asked for a long time. We're definitely in support of that. You know, there's no secret that Tara is leaving, and she has to move on for her own reasons. But the children are still here, and the families are still here. And we're making a lot of decisions, or we're proposing a lot of decisions to be made to restructure the department and how it's operated. The special ed coordinator, adding that position and switching the team chair. I think it's fantastic that we move it out of the teacher contract into an administrative category. However, do we really need 2 special ed coordinators? Do we really need the cost of 2 special ed coordinators? We have a BCBA in our district that serves over 60 children, roughly. I know I don't have the statistics exactly. Would those funds be better served with a part-time BCBA to help service our kids, to keep them in the district rather than putting them out? I think the Stars and Stripes program is something we've been proud of for years. It's something we've done well for years. The district has had a long-standing positive special ed coordinated program reviews of no compliance issues. While I'm sensitive to the fact, and while the CPAC and the families and the students, because the students are part of this too, especially after they're 14, they don't want changes in their classroom. Adding that other teacher, I've never in my entire life asked for no extra staff in anything. I think the money would be better spent elsewhere. I understand that there's legal obligations with age spans, but if we're putting children in a more restrictive environment to meet legal requirements, are we doing them any service? If we're cutting their cohort, are we doing them any service? You know, this year has not been easy on anybody. Teachers, students, administrators. Tara's been very open and transparent. She has not been in the classrooms as much as she would want to. So she knows our kids on paper. She doesn't know our kids as kids, not because she doesn't want to. I'm sure she'd much rather be playing on the preschool than doing paperwork. But right now, what our kids are known as is their numbers. They're not known as people. And not because the district doesn't want to, but because that's the limitations we're at. You know, so I would respectfully ask the committee, none of this was on the Douglas Public website before today. Families have not had a chance to talk and ask questions about the special ed budget. I would respectfully ask the committee to delay the decision of voting for positions until we can get more information. We're not going to hire a teacher for tomorrow. It's going to be for September. If we wait a few weeks and Dr. Vieira and Tara can look at comparable districts and see what they're doing, what's a few more weeks if we can do this right for our kids? But I think we really need to be asking our building principals, our teachers, our students, and our staff what they want, because nobody's asking them. And lastly, I know we were going to pay for these new positions with the money that we have left over from salaries of ABA and para positions that have been unfilled, because we've struggled with that. Everybody's struggled with that. They're unfilled because we need them. How are we in compliance? We got them because we needed them. Children's IEPs needed them. I get calls every week or every other week saying my ABA was pulled, my para was pulled. And I filter that up. But if you don't have the bodies, you don't have the bodies. So I respectfully ask that we pause a little bit and get a little bit more information before we vote on decisions. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Thanks, Anybody else on public comment? Are we on YouTube? Is there any? Okay. Seeing if nobody else wants to come forth for public comment, I'm going to close public comment and open up for the FY23 budget public hearing.
Can we move the robotics students before the public hearing?
Absolutely. So the robotics students, would you like to come up?
Hello, my name is Evan Kay. This is John Dariotis, and this is Luke Walsek. Firstly, we'd like to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak here today, and I would like to start us off by talking about a short history of the Robotics Club and Robotics Department. In 2019, the Robotics Club started off by forming from students in the Robotics 1 class, as well as coders from Mr. LaChapelle's coding classes. That team would go on to compete in 2 regional competitions that year before shutting down for COVID-19. From the years 2020 to 2021, the Robotics Club was not in operation. However, the Robotics 1 class was. And in the beginning of this year, 2021 to 2022, the Robotics 1 class continued operation with the addition of the Robotics 2 class, as well as the resuming function of the Robotics Club, which basically restarted since all of the juniors and seniors that had previously been in it graduated.
So, with our robotics competition team still being a relatively new team, with this only being our second year of operation, and not operation, but competing in events, we still had a lot to learn along the way, and we didn't have much of a foundation to build upon. So our first experience with the competition environment was when, as a team, we traveled to Dartmouth High School back in, when was that, like October, I want to say, September? November. And when we went there, we believed our robot would be able to perform not very well, but decent enough. We got there, and we were proven wrong. So our design did not work at all. We had this crane that was immensely top-heavy, and we spent the whole day trying to fix it to no avail. And from that, we learned that it was okay to scrap our original designs in favor of newer designs that would be more innovative and that would progress the ability of the robot. So from there, we worked on numerous designs to try to bring the robot to its maximum capability. One of these designs being what Evan is holding here, which will be briefly touched on by Luke a bit later. So when we competed, when the competition season came upon us, we traveled as a team to Canton High School to compete in the regional competitions, and we actually ended up performing so well that we advanced to the state competitions at Natick High School. And in both of those competitions, we competed against schools who had their robotics program running for years, whereas ours was very new. This is only the second year of our competition team competing. And the schools we were competing against, their robots were far more developed than ours due to experience and a bit higher budgets. However, despite all those odds, we were still able to advance to the high level that we did and have our robot perform to its maximum capability. And this was in majority part due to the willpower and the determination of all the students involved in the robotics program. So a big reason that we went to state, as stated by the first organization FIRST being the organization hosting the robotics competitions, was that out of all of the new sort of rookie clubs, we were what they believed the team that they believed improved the most out of everybody.
So at the beginning of the school year, the FIRST Robotics always sends out rules for that year's challenges, and then we brainstorm ideas on how we can best accomplish the assigned tasks and start building the robot. Our design is our own. We incorporate our own designs with some inspiration from things we have seen other teams do. As John previously mentioned, we had trouble with our first design, but over time we came up with a very functional design that allows us to compete at a high level. In fact, we did so well at the Canton qualifier, we were invited to compete at the state competition. Unfortunately, we were informed of this during February vacation, and the state competition was the following Saturday. While our robot was good, we wanted to be even better heading into states. So we worked on the water wheel design over the entire February break, including taking a trip to the school St. John's to use their amazing facilities. Unfortunately, we could not implement our design within the size restrictions by 1/8 of an inch before the competition, despite the fact that we stayed at school until 9:30 p.m. the day before the competition, trying to get it to work. Our water wheel worked well and it would have been very useful, but we just didn't have enough time to meet the specs for the competition. This taught us the importance of time management, my apologies, of course, but more importantly, it helped us build upon our knowledge of what designs worked and what don't work for the upcoming years, like a foundation to build upon. This year was kind of like a trial run, as it was really the first year that the robotics team performed competitively.
And one more thing, I think it's notable to mention how this water wheel design, first I'll describe very briefly how it works. These tines would actually turn and intake a cube, and it would be lifted up by a set of rails and would then turn the other way and be deposited. And these blue parts over here are actually all 3D printed by a student. So our robot is student made and our robotics program is majority student led.
I would like to add now that as the years go by and the robotics department grows, it becomes more robust and attractive to 8th graders transitioning into 9th grade that are potentially looking at other schools such as BVT and Baypath for their engineering/robotics courses. Our robotics department provides hands-on engineering classes that are fun and engaging for the students that attend them, and currently we have over 20 kids that are enrolled to be in next year's classes.
We are currently researching fundraising ideas, as there are many costs involved in keeping this awesome program running. Parts wear out and need to be replaced, and the competitions require registration fees and bus fees. We are very appreciative of Mr. Reardon, Mr. Romano, Mr. Tossi, and all of you for the support we have been giving and getting us to where we are. We know the future looks bright for this amazing program. Here's a quick display of what our robot can do. There are 2 different modes. The first is an autonomous mode where the robot is programmed to operate, and we'll show you a quick example of autonomous now, but there is also a teleop where the robot is operator controlled.
Okay, I have to stand up. It's pretty cool.
It runs off the cell phone?
Yes. So,
See?
while I'm setting this up, if you would care to see, these are 2 devices that communicate with this phone to tell the robot what to do. All of the wires that are protruding out of it plug into various different components. Would you like to explain while I do this?
So there's a pivot mechanism, so now it can fit in the size restrictions. And we also have the chain mechanism to actually lift the claw, and then there's what we call a sublift, where there's a track and there's another track on top of that so we can reach even higher. And that's basically the simplified explanation.
Okay. And the demo is ready, so.
Ideally, it would pick up the block. It appears that we still have more testing to do. But I would also like to mention that all the code that goes into this is all student written, and it's taken from the minds of the students in the computer classes, and these students use what they learn in these classes to come up with ideas in sort of real-world applications here, and come up with how to make the robot do what it needs to do, sometimes very on the spot, day of competition.
So,
We'll try this one more time.
as you may have noticed, I accidentally shut off the robot as I pulled it back to the starting point, which is not only embarrassing, but it drastically extends the period of time needed to start the robot. So, I'm going to transition into a Q&A period if you have any questions.
So I just want to tell you guys that as amazing as those things are, I am more impressed by your presentation skills.
Thank you.
You guys are very impressive how you just spoke. Like you spoke really, it's just amazing. I'm just telling you that. You guys were amazing to just listen to.
Thank you.
The robots are great, but your presentation skills are phenomenal.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo what Julie's saying. Like, I know that, I imagine, your focus is here and here. But listening to you guys talk, it's like, when I was your age, I was really afraid of making mistakes and screwing up. Like, that was sort of my number one thing, was just to get it right. And I'm so impressed by how you talk about the work that was put into it, and that it didn't work the first time. And then you went back to the drawing board and look at how far you went the next time around. Like, that's the learning. Like, that's what we're here for. So that really, really touches me. I'm super impressed. And I think that's the part you guys should be the proudest of. Like, I love that this picks up a cube, but honestly, like, I really, really, you should be really proud of
Yeah,
yourselves.
seriously.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other comments? It doesn't appear that this is going to work.
It's past its bedtime.
Yeah. So I suppose I would like to say that, again, we would just like to thank you for the opportunity for us to talk today, even if everything didn't go as planned.
You guys juniors, or what grade are you in? Y'all juniors?
I'm a senior, they're both juniors.
Okay, that's awesome.
Well, I'm just elated that you guys did, as well as you did. And like I said, you'll learn lifelong skills just doing what you did in that short amount of window. That'll carry you far in life. And so I'm so appreciative to Mr. Reardon for being part of the robotics team and setting that example to you guys. It's awesome. I'm sorry to lose you as seniors, but I'm so happy for the program's alive and well, and it looks like it's thriving. We're getting more and more kids involved. This is great. So congratulations on this year's success, and hopefully you just build upon it for next year. And we'd love to have you come back and show us what you're going to do for next year.
Yeah.
We can't wait.
Yeah, it would be really cool to keep all of everything that you make so you can see the progression over time too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You guys are cool.
Congratulations to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Careful.
Thank you, Mr. Reardon.
So now we're going to open it up for the FY23 budget presentation hearing.
We need a motion and then a vote. Oh, just open it up, please, sorry, we don't need a motion. All right, so,
Yes,
sorry,
no, we're just,
I was in the wrong place. So, welcome everyone to the superintendent's proposed budget for our public hearing. Scott, where am I aiming this?
You all said, just hit it up like.
And our first slide is one that we've done before, and it's our mission statement. Chairperson, ready to start our meeting. And again, what we strive to do is provide those diverse learning experiences that meet the academic, social, physical, and emotional needs of our students. We want to make sure we do that in a safe, supportive, and challenging environment so that students have that academic success and that personal growth, so when they graduate the Douglas Public Schools, they're productive members of society. As we said, our goal is to provide, at minimum, a level service budget for the FY23 school year. The budget narrative. This is a fiscally responsible budget. And as I said, it's a level service budget. But I also want to highlight some of the things that are not in the budget and things that we're going to strive to do going forward. Yes, we've added some things. Yes, we've made some tweaks to things. Yes, we've reallocated resources. But it does not include any significant major academic program changes that we would need to be competitive with other school districts. It does not include additional staff members to meet the needs of students. Yes, we're adding a couple of positions, but as I look at the overall district, we could be using an adjustment counselor and a guidance counselor at the high school. We could use extra custodial support. We need a STEM teacher at the elementary school. I'd love to have reading and math coaches at our elementary schools. There are so many other positions we need that aren't included in the budget. So I just, as we go through things, want to highlight that although it is a level service budget and it is a responsible budget, there are also things in here that we just couldn't afford to meet the needs of all of our students. Going forward, what are we looking at? We want to make sure we have that level of academic excellence. We want to review and revise curriculum across all grade levels to make sure it's accurate and it's meeting the needs of our students. So important to make sure that what kids are being taught and what they're learning is appropriate, is at grade level, it's accurate, and that teachers have the resources they need in order to deliver the curriculum. Love to add, going forward, additional classes across grade levels. As I said, love to have a STEM teacher at our elementary school and at our primary school to give kids additional specials. Would love to be able to add additional staffing at the middle school so we can offer the electives the kids have loved. They love the mindfulness elective at the middle school, but also a guidance counselor and an adjustment counselor. Literacy is so important to me, especially at the early grades. If kids can read and they can write, it's the foundation of everything. So it's the importance of moving that literacy initiative forward, and it's building upon Project Lead the Way at our high school and our middle school. We've started our engineering program. We saw a brief example of what that looks like going forward. We want to continue to build and foster those two-way partnerships with families, caregivers, and the community. We did a survey. We just closed a survey. I've asked Mr. Bell to help out tabulating the results of that survey and putting together a committee to work on a vision statement, a mission statement, and some goals for us as to how we can better partner with families. And when we talk about two-way communication, we do a great job pushing information out and sharing information, but how can we exchange that two-way dialogue and improve upon that with families? Love to be able to expand after-school opportunities for kids. Thrilled that our middle school enrichment program is up and running this week. Happy that it's thriving in our elementary school. We've done some groundwork this year on fostering that environment that is supportive of diversity, promoting equity, and being inclusive of all. I'm wrapping up a 4-part course on diversity and equity next week. And one of the big pushes for me for next year is really highlighting and emphasizing that equity piece and making sure that people understand what equity means, what it looks like, because when you have true equity in your schools, that inclusive environment comes, as does that support for diversity. So really pushing for equity across the schools. Love to add that guidance counselor and that adjustment counselor. Under local and global citizenship, we talked about diversity, equity, and inclusivity. We'd love to see some more service projects across all grade levels with students going out. That growth mindset, building a culture that promotes reflection and continuous improvement in students and staff. We need to reflect. We need to look at what we're doing. We need to look to see how we can do better. Later on today is my evaluation. I had the opportunity to read it today. There's some great feedback on what I can be doing better as a leader of the district. So I need to do that. We all need to do that. We need to promote that growth mindset and students and staff in setting goals. So just some of the things we're looking at going forward. I'm really proud of the work that we've done with our limited budget and reallocating staff and thinking creatively going forward. This is just a brief synopsis of some of the things that have happened this year and we see going forward for next year. We're going to increase those libraries at the primary and the elementary school so staff and students have access to more diverse books, more appropriate books, more grade level books, more books that engage kids and get them excited to read. Love the fact that we're doing the STARS assessment at our primary and our elementary schools in grades K-4 to be able to give teachers and parents feedback to see how kids are progressing towards standards. It's not the end-all be-all, but it's a data point that gives teachers the opportunity to reflect on their practice, what they're doing, and what they can do to improve. The middle schools offered some great electives as part of the new schedule: debate, Space Odyssey, STEM, mindfulness, yoga, drama, and games unplugged. We're going to build upon Project Lead the Way with the grant at the middle school with design and modeling. And next year, they're going to add automation and robotics. We're going to do at the middle school this year, and to expand upon our Academic Development Center, which is a great Tier 2 intervention for students. High school new courses will include Spanish music and dance, marine biology, robotics 2, drawing and painting, sculpture, modern issues, personal finance, investing, and again, adding to our engineering program, AP Physics 2, AP Honors, AP Seminar, Honors Topics in Math, and Graphic Design. Josh is expanding the Pathways program for students. We've added the intervention blocks and some after-school tutoring. I don't know if I said it here at another meeting, but as part of the grant we got last year, we're providing tutors after school for students in order to make sure there's no learning loss. And when we first put it out, we didn't have too many kids sign up. Mr. Romano reached out to moms and dads and families, and parents loved the idea and signed their kids up for the program. So it took off. We've created a partnership with Nichols College, and last week Mr. Romano and I had a meeting at Assumption University, and we're looking at creating a partnership with them, an early college program. Assumption meets the needs of some of our students. I think Assumption can meet the needs of other population of students. There's a grant out there that I'm going to start applying for in May that would help fund this program. In short, when we met with Assumption, our students starting their junior and senior year can go there and take college classes at Assumption and have access to their full slew of 100 level college credits. Josh, did you end up reaching out to find out the cost, or not yet?
We're still working on the cost.
We're still working on the cost, all right. So how awesome would it be for a student to have that dual enrollment opportunity to come here for a portion of the day, go to Assumption College, take their classes there, and graduate here as a senior with already 10 credits under their belt? They could apply to Assumption. They could also potentially apply somewhere else, and they would get those credits at a reduced rate, not at the full $40,000, $50,000 price tag. So we're working on that piece.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How do juniors find out about this and seniors? Like, how come people didn't know about Nichols? I mean, I kind of knew about it, but
So the Nichols,
Nichols is brand new. So the freshman academy that we're doing with them, we had Nichols come in, they talked about it at our Step Up Night, and then they're going to come in, I forget the date now, but I think it's actually April 13th. So they're going to come in and talk to the 8th grade students and get them signed up. So that was brand new. We put it out to parents at the Step Up Day.
okay.
and Assumption, the meeting was literally last Thursday at 12 o'clock.
Lunch, yeah.
It was lunch at 12 o'clock, so it's, the Assumption piece is 3 days old. And it was interesting, just the power of networking. We went over to the School of Nursing. The woman who runs the School of Nursing, I got my undergraduate with her and her husband, and they actually set up a tour for our kids, I believe for next fall. to go to Assumption and tour the School of Nursing. So they're going to open themselves up to our students for nursing. So just a lot of great opportunities for us. But that was just on Thursday, so we need a little bit of time to build upon that. All right. So the budget summary as of today. The FY22 general fund appropriation net offsets was $14,727,000. The FY23 town additional appropriation amount, which is at 2%, amounts to $280,015. We've received for next year an additional proposed subsidy from the town in the amount of $327,347, bringing the FY23 total proposed town appropriation to the schools at $14,608,089. The cost to operate the Douglas Public Schools that we're presenting, our FY23 proposed budget, is $18,040,829. We're going to use in grants and revolving funds to offset the budget $3,432,740, which, if you subtract that from our proposed budget, brings our FY23 proposed general fund budget net offsets to $14,608,089, which is what the FY23 proposed town appropriation is. The percent increase from FY22 to FY23 is in the amount of 4.34%. I'll turn it over to Ms. Keegan for the next piece.
And this is the, some budget details. Unfortunately, I did not update some of this when I had to update the budget. So I'm just going to read what it should be for a couple of the numbers. So the first bullet is the FY 2023 House 1 Governor's Budget, Chapter 70 increase is, as it has been for a number of years, as you know, the absolute minimum of $30 per student, or 0.38%. Coming to a whopping $33,420 increase. So the FY 2023 Chapter 70 amount is $8,826,185. Now in the next bullet, as Dr. Vieira just enumerated, at this time it is $3,432,740 that is recommended to be used from revolving funds and grants as budgetary offsets. That is most of the school choice account, school choice tuition in, circuit breaker, athletic fees, music preschool tuition fees, and grants. The tuition fees would be from the preschool tuition fees, yes. And this is an increase of actually $481,585 over FY 2022. You know, we had some, as you know, some difficulty in trying to close that gap. So we did increase the use of mostly circuit breaker revolving fund to close that gap very, very recently. So again, I just want to reiterate that, you know, going forward, we won't be able to sustain these increases to the use of our other funds over the long term. There are additional key elements of the FY23 budget that Dr. Vieira has already enumerated, essentially level service. We did add a few additional positions, and we actually spoke of this at the last meeting. I believe it was on March 22nd as well. One of the big increases that we're not too happy about is fuel oil costs increased $102,856 from FY22 to 23. The price of oil went up from $1.699 to $2.90 a gallon. In salaries and other compensation account for, at this moment in time, 86.95% of the overall operating budget. So, you know, as you can see, that's really a large percent of our budget. So we are looking to, and we definitely did in the many reiterations that we've had to do since the preliminary, there's only so much you can cut out of supplies and things of that nature. You know, fuel oil is something you can't cut. You know, there's electricity and things of that nature. 86.95% of the budget is salaries. So if you go to on the next page, that just reiterates what we have stated, but it does break it down, though, to show, and I think this is really key, to kind of show the overall operating budget. Again, 86.95% of it is salaries and other compensation of the entire budget. I'm also showing and enumerating all of the offsets in the categories as well. The next one down is contractual services. That would be special ed tuitions, building maintenance, and things of that nature. That's 10.57%. Utilities is a very low amount. Now, remember, this is net of use of revolving funds and grants. That is 0.06%. Supplies, which would be textbooks, mostly textbooks, instructional supplies, office supplies, nurse supplies, things of that nature. That's 1.82%. Other, just miscellaneous, 0.60%. So again, most of it is, largely salaries because, again, we want to have staff in front of our students, so that's the primary expenditure throughout the district. Another thing I do want to, back again with just to reiterate that the largest, by far the largest offsets to the budget are our school choice revolving fund, which is school choice tuition coming into the district, and the circuit breaker. And again, I just want to remind everyone that DESE does expect you to utilize in the following year all the revenue that you received in the prior year. So that's another thing that I have to look at. Not that we have a problem doing that, but I do need to look at that as well when we're incorporating use of circuit breaker funds into the budget. And that comes from special education expenditures minus a foundation amount that the state determines, and then the state reimburses by law up to 75%. We are told that it will be 75% for FY23. It has not always been the case over the years, but we're very happy that we should be receiving the 75%, which also helped as well as increasing the recommendation for the use of that particular fund. And I do have the budget available here up on the stage. I have passed it out, and anybody who has not received it, you can certainly, if you'd like, avail yourself of a copy. We did also post it on the front page of the website as well. And again, this is all subject to town meeting appropriation, which is on
Monday, May 2nd, I believe.
May 2nd, I believe it is. Monday evening on May 2nd.
With that said, this is the public hearing. If there's anyone in the public who has any questions about the budget, be more than happy to answer them now. If not, we can close this portion of it, and then when we get to the consent agenda, when we discuss the budget, that'll be the school committee's opportunity to ask questions about the budget. Can you just come to the microphone just so people, no, it's all right. Just so those at home can hear.
No, that's okay. I remember
Can
way
you
back.
state your name and
Oh,
address,
sorry.
please?
Hi, I'm Beth Bergstrom, 26 North Street in Douglas. Paul, I remember way back when, I think it was when we were doing your first interview, you discussed the use of solar. I believe it was you that discussed using solar panels. Can the district look into somehow offsetting our fuel costs with looking into grants to provide solar power or different things like that?
I know, I've been in districts that have used solar. I'll turn it over to Courtney, because I wasn't part of the procurement process in the beginning of that. Can you?
Oh, there's no, I don't know
No,
which.
or the whole process of
Yeah.
how, do you know anything about
Okay, so
solar?
are you talking about electricity or?
Yeah, because I'm seeing the fuel costs, which are, I mean, obviously, we have to heat our buildings for everybody.
Okay,
and-
so for solar, I mean, I've heard of solar panels on roofs, which can cause problems on roofs, but for electricity,
Or anything, have we
yeah.
looked into any?
Oh, yeah, we
al-
have in the past. I do know some districts that have done that, and from what I had done, now, this is at that time, they actually ended up having problems with their roofs because of putting those panels on the roof, because you're actually cutting into the roof.
Is it
you know,
something
so-
that maybe the district could explore again now that things have changed? Like, I don't know if it would just be worth us looking at as a way to
Oh, yeah,
kind
we
of.
could, we could look at it again,
Okay,
you know, yes.
that's all.
Thank you.
Actually, following up with what she said, so I know that we've done like upgrades in these buildings, but like, has the primary school have all the lighting and has there been energy efficiency studies done in those schools too? It's a pretty old school, actually, that primary school.
Did you say the element, I thought you said the elementary school.
Primary.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, and what was the rest of the question?
As far as like, the lighting and the energy efficiency things that they always do through the electric companies and all that, like the LEEDs programs, things, has that been done in the
So
primary school?
what we've done in a number
Boilers.
of the buildings is we have done lighting projects that have saved a lot of money as far as the lights themselves. Okay, as far as and we worked with the like National Grid, and there's never any funding that we have to outlay any cash on our end. So we have done this through what's allowed under Mass General Law as far as changing our lighting in the, in schools, LED lighting. That we've done. Now, as far as a primary school, we have had on capital committee, the plan for capital, for the primary school. And as you know, it's very, very, very old. So what we need to do is have the funding to do a feasibility study of the entire building, because a number of things need to be looked at, whether it be the windows, and we have had part of the roof replaced, over the past, it's probably, God, it's already 7 years, oh my God. Now it's probably about 10 years ago now, doesn't seem like it, but, so with regard to the primary school, it's so old that we need to have a feasibility study to look at the entire building. The entire building.
Yeah, and so National Grid doesn't do that for free for the schools? Is that separate from like?
No, that would be a feasibility, no, they wouldn't be looking at, no, we're not talking about just lighting. When you do a feasibility study, you're looking at every single
Right,
aspect
so
of the
you're
building.
right, the windows,
Yeah.
everything, the whole,
Right.
I
Yeah.
get that, okay.
Yeah. So we are hoping that at some point, that if we can get that feasibility study, that would be the first step, and then possibility of applying to doing a statement of interest with MSBA to see if we can get some funding from MSBA for reimbursement to do some kind of a renovation project. So that has been on the radar for the last at least 5 years, if not more. Yep.
We're discussing this more during the consent
You'll
agenda.
discuss this during the consent agenda, correct?
Yeah.
Does anybody else from the public want to come up and speak? Seeing that there's none, I'm going to close public comment and ask for the school committee if they want to ask any questions or concerns about the budget presented.
Are we doing that now, or are we doing that? Consent agenda, second.
Would you do the consent agenda? That's
Or, is that accurate, or are we
We move
moving
to the
it?
consent agenda,
Okay.
because it will need you to vote
Yeah.
on it.
So close that. We'll move to the superintendent's report.
All right. I just got a text message from Mr. Reardon. The robot was very nervous here on stage. It is working perfectly. Stage fright is working perfectly fine in the back. He sent me a video if anyone would like to see it. But the robot does work, and it is working properly. It was just very, very, very nervous here. So we'll start off with Ms. Soboleski. I know she has a presentation. She was at the school committee meeting, I believe 3 weeks ago, in which she presented some changes and the vision going forward. And I know the committee had some time to look at it, but I also wanted to give you time, 3 weeks from when she presented to now, to have another opportunity to look at it, to have her have the ability to come back and present, and to give you the opportunity to ask some follow-up questions, should you have them. So I'll turn it over to Tara for a brief review of what she presented 3 weeks ago.
Thank you. Good evening. So just talking about special ed program planning moving forward, if we want to start by just reviewing where we are right now currently with special ed programming in the district, that would be great. Does someone have the?
Oh, clicker, sorry.
All right. So this is a list of our current programming in each building across the district, with everything from co-teaching up happening in the general education setting. So students are receiving these services alongside their non-disabled peers, and everything below that co-teaching line would be our programs that are servicing students outside of the general education setting. So only our special education students have access to those services. So we talked a little bit about what Flex is. We get this question a lot from parents. Flex essentially is servicing our students whose needs can't be met within the general education setting, whether it's because they have social emotional needs and they need to access services on an ongoing basis, or if they need a more therapeutic setting. Some of our students have academic needs that can't be met within the classroom because they require more moderate to substantially modified curriculum. And some of our students need some functional academic or adaptive daily living instruction. So looking at what is currently happening at the primary school, currently we have 3 integrated preschool classrooms. We have a half-day 3-year-old program and 2 4-year-old preschool programs, both with the option for half-days or full days. We have 1 special educator supporting our students in kindergarten and 1st grade in the inclusion setting and doing some pull-out services. And then we have 1 flex classroom with a severe special educator providing services to 3 students. Next year, we're going to be looking to increase our integrated preschool classrooms for an option for a full-day 3-year-old preschool program, or at least 2 half-day programs. Right now, Miss Sosha has 14 non-disabled students pre-registered for the 3-year-old preschool program, which is excellent. We also just need to keep in mind that we have students on a continual basis turning 3 and coming out of early intervention, and we need to make sure that there are spaces available in those programs to service them as well. We're going to continue with the model of the K-1 inclusion special educator and 1 flex classroom teacher. Any questions on the primary school before I move on?
So the flex classroom special ed teacher stays in the flex room?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
and then the 1 special ed teacher for inclusion and pull-out services rotates?
Correct. So the flex teacher at the primary school does have some students who are substantially separate, so they're not accessing the inclusion setting for any significant amount of the day. So she's mostly within that 1 classroom, correct?
Thank you.
All right, and looking where we are at the elementary school, we have special educators co-teaching 1 per grade level right now. We have 2 flex programs, 1 servicing students with social, emotional, and academic needs, and 1 servicing students with more severe disabilities with some ADL needs. We also have an academic center teacher right now, and the academic center essentially was founded to service our students with language-based learning disabilities. One of the great things about co-teaching is it reduces the amount of time that students with language-based learning disabilities need to be removed from the general education setting because the co-teacher's in that class and can provide the modifications that are needed right in the classroom. So essentially our academic center teacher is currently helping out with more of an overflow of just some of the pull-out services. One of the deficit areas that parents brought to my attention at the very beginning of the year was that we don't have a designated special education teacher providing reading services at the elementary school. So we're looking to, instead of having an academic center teacher next year, have a teacher who's a special educator who's solely focused on intensive reading services for our students who have reading services on their service delivery grids. Questions on the elementary school?
Yes. So for students who are mostly in an inclusion setting, but let's say they're pulled out for speech, what are they doing right now, the academic center or that second flex center?
If they're pulled out for what service was it?
Speech therapy.
So that would be just with the related service provider. That wouldn't be in a flex classroom or anything.
Okay, so they don't need the academic center to be available as that?
Correct. So the academic center essentially was designed for students with language-based learning disabilities, like your SLD in reading, where you would be getting your core content classes taught to you outside of the gen ed setting.
Yeah.
The majority of our students are included
Okay.
for their general education core content instruction.
Thank you.
We have some growth at our middle school next year. Right now, we have a fairly large fifth grade bubble that will be going up to the middle school, so we need to be planning for that. Right now, the middle school has a co-teacher per grade level. They also service some pull-out services. Then we have our Flex program. That teacher is servicing students with social, emotional, and academic needs right now. And we have an academic center. That academic center is providing C-grid services, but to a small number of students. For next year, we're looking at the removal of the academic center and having 3 distinct Flex classrooms. Again, not that kids can't access different Flex classrooms, but just so that they can specialize in their own area. One for academics, one for that social emotional piece, and one for the more functional academic piece. What I would note at the middle school is that students are struggling right now socially, emotionally, and it's challenging for students who are not struggling socially and emotionally to access intensive modifications, while the teacher is also trying to service students who are having some pretty significant social, emotional concerns. So that's the thought process behind splitting that cohort. Questions on that?
You find that there's like a lot of general ed kids that are struggling with that don't have the help that maybe like other kids may have more accessibility to if they're in like a special ed kind of program. I'm not really even saying that correctly.
I think I know what you're asking me.
I'm
So I think there are a lot of students in general, not just in Douglas. When I'm talking to colleagues in middle school, is a tough social emotional period for anyone, anytime. But right now, schools are feeling a lot. I mean, across the board, but definitely at your middle school levels. I think there are general education students who are definitely struggling, and I think that goes back to those tier 1 and 2 supports that Dr. Vera was talking about, you know, wanting to increase your guidance counselor and your school adjustment counselor services, which are available to all students, because the needs are greater than
Right,
they
because
have
that's
been
why it's
historically.
like, you know, well, we don't have like the IEP, we don't have all these plans, so what about us? Like, what do we get to do? Like, there's no help kind of thing, so.
Right.
You know.
Well, and I think some students are struggling who are not disabled, right? They're
Right,
not, they're
exactly.
struggling because of circumstances that are happening. So yes, I agree. You want to make sure your tier 1 and 2 are set up to support them so that it doesn't get to the point that it becomes disabling.
So that, just to clarify, that first step for next year, that first step Flex Center servicing students with social, emotional, and behavioral needs, students don't have to be on an IEP to access that Flex Center, correct?
They do.
They do.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, the flex programs are only available to students
Okay,
on IEPs.
that's right.
Correct.
Made a little note on the previous slide. I remember now. Thank you.
So, and that's kind of where I was going with that question. Are parents going to try to get their more children on an IEP so that they can have more access to services that they otherwise wouldn't have?
I think sometimes that's a misperception for parents, thinking that the only way to get your child help is to look for special education as if it's the only game in town. So I think to be responsible, we have to make sure that, one, that special education is not the only game in town, because that truly is a disability service, and we don't want to label anyone as disabled if they're not. And two, we just, you know, help parents understand the difference between struggling right now because of circumstances versus an emotional disturbance, which are two very different things.
And there should be a robust enough adjustment counselor scenario that kids that are in the general ed population can get support too, like not be thrown to the wolves when it comes to social emotional issues.
Right, I think we're good for high school. Okay. Okay, so for high school, we currently have a co-teacher at each grade level. Planning to continue to do that. Those co-teachers actually do not teach any pull-out services with the exception of their academic support services. The pull-out services are provided by the 2 flex classrooms. We're going to continue with that model as the plan. And then we do have our Stars and Stripes program. I have to say I'm shocked that it's not better received to have an additional teacher servicing students with severe needs. Right now, the Stars and Stripes program is serving 11 students, which is a pretty big cohort for students who have significant disabilities. And we have an age span gap that's greater than 6 years. So we certainly can justify the programming needs for having 2 teachers. One of the things that was brought to my attention right away was that our postgraduate students don't have a ton of opportunities for off-campus activities, off-campus instructions, and a lot of parent concerns at the senior level and the postgraduate level is that students and parents are feeling like they're not prepared to enter their adult lives, and that's a problem. That's the whole point of 14 Plus, is getting students ready to access post-secondary living, whether that's going to be employment, post-secondary education, or if it's going to be entering adult services. We need to make sure that they're ready for that. And that has to include some off-site opportunities. So the preliminary budget does include transportation, regular transportation for students to be off-site. So I think that's important. The other thing we have to keep in mind is you can't have it both ways. You can't want half your kids off-site and half of them in the classroom and only have one teacher, because you can't simultaneously do both. So for next year, we would be looking to add a severe teacher at the high school to split the Stars and Stripes program. Not that they can never do any activities together or that, you know, the sense of community needs to be lost, but so that they have opportunities to do the separate things that they need to do. Our high schoolers still need time on learning. Our postgraduate students need time off-site. And that's essentially how we can do it. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. Just for sustainability purposes, I added this from when we met the last time, because I think the concern was, is this a sustainable model, splitting Stars and Stripes? And I think in a small district, it's going to have to be something that's reviewed periodically, because as enrollment changes, we're going to be in the same spot we're in right now, where we're talking about, oh, we no longer need the academic center, but we have a whole lot of reading needs, so we need a reading teacher. But for right now, this is what enrollment projections look like for our Stars and Stripes program. So we're looking at cohorts of the lowest of 3, and that's being pretty conservative, assuming that we want to keep as many of our middle schoolers on a diploma track as possible until it becomes, the absolute necessity that they start moving towards a more functional academic path in their high school career. So at this point, it looks like this is a pretty sustainable model for the foreseeable future. Questions on that?
Yeah. So this is an overall question, so I think this is where I'm confused. So we have special education, student support services. So like, I'm thinking on the total other end, where like you have kids that are very gifted children. How do they fall within this like student services, student support system? Where do they fall, or do they fall under any of this?
So we don't currently have a gifted and talented program here in Douglas.
Would that be something that would fall under this if we did have that? Would fall under any of the stuff that you're talking about, special ed, student services?
No, so special ed is disability services only. So be gifted and talented wouldn't be considered a disability, so it wouldn't fall under that.
Okay.
That would be a general education program.
So you have student support services, so that then special ed falls underneath that?
Correct, yep.
So what else would, aside from special ed, what else would that be?
So your non-general education programs would, so your English language learner programs and special education.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thanks.
Yep, good question.
Beth pretty much spoke for everything that I would have said. However, I do have a couple of other things. Do teachers have to go with them when they go off campus?
I'd like to know how we're monitoring their progress
But do they accompany them? Because they never have before. And my daughters switch districts, and it's ABAs or paras that go with them. So what would the teacher be doing that was not going off campus?
So I would anticipate that the teacher is going off campus.
But they don't have to.
I would recommend that they do.
But is it the norm in every other district? Because it's not the norm in my district that my daughter's in, that's much bigger.
Okay.
So
So I think it depends district to district. When I was in Grafton, yes, the teacher went off-site. I thought they had a very strong post-grad program, and yes, the teacher did go off-site with them. In Marlboro, same thing. So my experience is typically that the teachers are going off-site with them. Do I think that it's appropriate for the teacher not to? Maybe. Do I think it's appropriate for the teacher never to see them at the work site? No, absolutely not.
If I could just also piggyback off that, I think in an established program where there are norms, routines, and it's something that's been in place for 15 years, where the paras have been trained, the paras have worked, and the ABs have worked underneath a teacher and seen that modeling off-site, I can understand that model. When you're starting a program from scratch and you're doing that job placement and you're hiring an ABA or a paraprofessional, many times they're kids who just graduated from college, people without four-year degrees in special education, a variety of people. To send an ABA who we just hired with limited skill set in working with the severe special needs population and put them on a bus on a job site with our most fragile population, 4 or 5 kids, is difficult in year 1. Maybe in year 5, 6, 7, 8, once they've seen that modeling and they have some experience, I can see that happening. But I think starting a program off, hiring someone who has the experience in going out into the job site, in working with kids, in writing the curriculum, in doing that would make sense year 1, year 2, but I can understand how, and I've seen it done too, where you do have paras and ABAs down the line with it. I'd just be scared to send with an ABA 5 days a week, someone who we just hired without that skill set, with 4 or 5 kids.
A new ABA, I would agree, but the ones that are here now, I would not.
To the 99,
They've been doing it for years.
So, yeah, that was my follow-up question. So has it has been happening? I mean, I understand that
Has it been?
there's.
Yes, it was happening until COVID.
Okay, I didn't know, that I didn't know, okay.
And my other problem with separating the stars and the stripes is the 3-3 for 24-25, which could usually be 2 and 2. Not knowing how old the kids are in that cohort. One could be a freshman, one could be a senior, and they're not going to have anybody to interact with. I understand that you're saying that they can sometimes come together, but the way it works right now, my daughter would have been lost if she didn't have the older kids to look up to work with every day, and she just breezed right into the next program at our new school, and it's the same as Douglas, ran the same way. It's just, I call it Douglas on steroids, because they have more teachers, more students, more opportunity. And the thing that was missing here all along was transportation. Without transportation, they were walking to the senior center. They were walking everywhere. If it rained, it had to be canceled, or if it snowed, it had to be canceled. So the programs have kind of always been in place. It's always been budgetary problems that have stopped it from happening or working. But pre-COVID, kids were leaving, graduating out, and going to a job from there, if they could. So I do have a problem separating stars and stripes. I understand the 2 different waivers that would have to be done, and I understand that the 7-year one is extensive and might not be doable, but if we could have the other waiver constantly always going so these kids can keep interacting as the years move on, it's just, the Star Department is imperative for their little community and all the projects that they do. And it kills me to think that there could possibly be 2 kids younger that are kind of always left out, or I can't see how the Star Department could be created in 2 different places in the school. It's too much work. I don't know. Those are just my random thoughts off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think
It's one good thing that we do here, amongst a million other things, but that's one solid thing that's even survived kind of COVID. They made things work, and to separate them is, I think, detrimental to that whole group.
Can you speak a little bit to the waiver process?
Sure. So for 48 special education students are supposed to be cohorted in groups of less than 48 months. Over 72 months, you have to submit as part of your waiver your plan to make sure that you don't need that waiver continuously. So whether or not you get the waiver more than once is something else to consider.
And I understand that that one's the hard one, but the way that the population changes so quickly in this school, they could all be 16 and over for a bunch of years, and no one might come up for 9th and 10th grade. So I just think it's something that should be like looked at every time somebody comes in or leaves, and so that group can
I think it's like
stay
that
together.
at each building, too. I think the population is so small that you're going to have to continually look at programs. 11 is a pretty good-sized cohort for severely impaired students.
That's this
who
year,
are
yes.
working on,
That's this year is 11?
correct.
Okay.
So
So-
this year's 11, next year's 10.
10, and then 8, and then 6.
Correct.
So we're already moving
Right.
down. We're already, and we've talked before about the population decline in Douglas, and I looked at the waivers too. I think like it's a mammoth task for Massachusetts to come up with laws that are going to fit every district. So when you say Grafton and Marlborough, I'm like, well, that's not here. It's not the money that's here. It's not the population that's here. It's not the size that's here. And like, we're looking at chronological age, developmental age. The waivers exist for a reason, right? Like they're pretty easily accessible on the website. I didn't have to look too hard. If it's this, in my mind, if it's the sort of thing where I'm not trying to be critical. Like I know you know more about this than I do, but if I'm like taking a step back, and the people who are involved in this program love it, and I don't know how much the teacher who runs this program was consulted. It would be great if she was part of this conversation with us as well, like what it looks like, because you haven't had a chance to be with those students, to Beth's point, like to talk about what does their day look like, what do the offsite visits look like. It's like a hard pill to swallow that we're looking at using as many revolving funds as we are, and then we're also talking about dropping another 50 grand on something that the people involved in this, for the most part, are saying, we don't want you to do that. I have a hard time with it too.
I hear the CPAC is not excited about that. Mr. Romano and I have had conversations about this and are on the same page that we feel like it's best for students. So all I can say is, this is just something I'm asking you to consider, and ultimately, it's your decision.
I have a question. So for the older kids in the program right now, like in terms of the activities that are being done, are the activities geared more towards the older group? That the 8th graders are just kind of being brought along with the flow of things? Or are the older kids having to spend time in activities that are geared more towards the 8th graders right now? How is that working?
So I think Ms. Pemberton's doing a really good job of trying to meet all of her student needs. But if you're thinking about a student who's 20 years old, right, what you're going to be working on is very different from what the 8th grade student is going to be working on academically. So you can't deliver ELA instruction at the same time as you're doing pre-voc, right? This is your interview skills. This is how you find out who your supervisor is, and this is how you answer interview questions. Like, those are two very different programmatic areas to be happening simultaneously.
Are we doing the voc stuff right now? Are our older kids having that experience?
They're doing what I would consider pre-voc.
Okay, so
activities
we're kind of
around the
falling
school.
somewhere in the middle right now, when it sounds like there's more that we could be doing with our older folks by splitting it.
I think more for both groups by splitting it, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And how many ABAs and paras are currently in Stars and Stripes, like in the classroom full time?
At least, thank you. I'm trying to go through the list in my mind. At least, I want to say 8, but I don't want to be wrong.
So 11 students, 1 teacher, 7 ABAs. Okay.
Do we have any vacancies the Stars and Bright program for ABAs? So we do have one vacancy, so it's pretty. And is that student counted in the 11?
Correct.
Mr. Romano, you're in the building. Would you mind giving your take on this? What's the pros and cons of keeping it or splitting it? You know the students. I don't know the students.
So, I think the same thing. I think that we need to give the kids in there a better opportunity to have a higher level of academics for those students who are still in the STARS program, and we need to get those opportunities to get the kids out in the public again, like we were pre-COVID, and get them out into placements. And I think that having that teacher helps. We do struggle to fill our pair and ABA positions, and it does become like a revolving door, and that makes it really hard for me to feel confident sometimes with somebody that we send out into the public with kids versus a professional teacher. And I just think we ask Emily to do so much that, when you stop by the room and you see there's 2 kids doing ALA, there's another student who's working on motor skills, there's 2 students who are going off to do some pre-voc stuff. There's a lot of movement, there's a lot of balls in the air at all times. And so it really is, it's a lot to ask of Emily, and I know that she, really feels that she is up to it, but at the same time, I look at it and it's so much for her to have to plan. Any given time, she might have 4 or 5 activities going at once. So it really is a lot on her too. And, many hands making light work, that sort of thing. And I think, there's a lot of opportunities to still have everybody working together too. So just because we say there's a STARS program and a STRIPES program, it doesn't mean that, never the 2 shall meet. I actually see them spending a lot of time together, the morning meeting type of thing. They do yoga. I think that there's still a lot of opportunities for the older students and the younger students to still be working together in this format. So,
I mean, that can also be part of the development of the 2 where there is designated times, that is set in stone that this is when they're coming together. Is that a possibility? So that it happens like that every year, that they know they're going to meet up, maybe there's an assembly or whatever it is that brings them together. Is that something that?
yeah, I would think that there would still continue to be. I mean, if we want the STARS kids to be out in the community, yeah, they're not going to be with the Stripes kids, the other way around. If we put the Stripes kids out into the community, then yeah, they're not with the STARS kids at that moment, but that's when the STARS kids should be doing their ELA, their math, their adaptive PE. So that is when they probably should be doing separate things. So, I think it's really just kind of building that opportunity to get our Stripes kids out and doing those things.
I think one of the other things we've talked about too is just students who are accessing Flex also having access to STARS for that ADL and transition piece as well. So not just students who are identified as in the STARS program having access to time with students who are in the Stripes program, but also Flex students with STARS students with Flex students.
And I'm all for the extra help for Emily. I'm fine with that. I just don't want to lose that inner core of their classroom. And I think the waivers should always be done so that they can always interact at any, sometimes there might be a project where two of the kids just don't want to have anything to do with it and they're more academic and they can go do that. That's fine. But as long as the other kids can go make cupcakes with the rest of the group. My daughter learns so much by being able to be with the older kids. It's beneficial to all of them. It's beneficial for them all to be going out to the senior center, even the younger kids. So I don't want them to lose that kind of stuff they were called STARS and Stripes for a reason, so they'd be kind of known together. I don't want it to be STARS, Stripes. The and has to kind of stay there for me.
So moving on just to staffing impacts, we have some internal staff changes. Our team chair is going to go back to Douglas High School as a teacher. The current teacher's position or assignment that she'll be taking. That teacher will be moving to the middle school to serve as the third flex programs teacher. And we just talked about that newly proposed position at the high school. Next one. So then, talking about the special education leadership structure, right now we have Sarah St. Peter is serving as our special education coordinator, and she is chairing all of our team meetings from early intervention through grade 5. Megan Zabicki, our team chair, which our team chair position is a Unit A DTA position. She's chairing all of our meetings 6th through post-grad at this point. Really challenging caseload for her to get her work done within the hours stipulated in the DTA contract. Quite a few other limitations. The coordinator can handle more assignments, if you will. So right now she's coordinating the EL services for the district. That's a growing population for us. She's coordinating specialized transportation for the district and helping out with supervision and evaluation. Of course, the planning of ESY because she's a 12-month employee where that team chair can't. So moving on to next year, the proposed structural change would be to have 2 special education coordinators with a 50-50 split, with the expectation that each of the coordinators would be taking a piece of all student services for the grade levels that they're servicing. So essentially by building, primary and elementary school serviced by one of them, middle and high school student support services serviced by them.
But I hit the wrong button.
That's okay, hang on, I can go. There's like 2 other sides, it's okay.
Okay.
So just, the thought process behind this is just the increased compliance monitoring, increased supervision, evaluation, and support for our special education teachers. Both the coordinator and the team chair at this point aren't as visible in buildings as they would like to be. We're hoping this would be a big help, having that team chair working the same hours as the coordinator, being able to take some of those pieces so that they can both be out in buildings. Our EL population is growing. That's something that should remain on the radar. Our October SIMS, we had 11. We just completed access testing. I anticipate we'll identify 15 students for ELE programming for next year. 11 to 15 doesn't sound like a big number, but when you're stretching it across the district with one EL teacher, that's something to keep in mind. It's a lot of Tetris playing, if you will, and service coordination that we need to make sure we're monitoring the progress of those students and that they're getting the services that they need. And then we talked about the reallocation of resources. Those 4 para positions that we were talking about eliminating are not student-designated support staff. Those are paraprofessionals that are supporting the inclusion setting, and with the restructuring of more teachers available to provide C-grid services, we don't need them to support those inclusion services anymore. And that is that. Questions on anything that we haven't, or that I haven't covered so far?
The ABA position, same thing. That was an
Correct.
ABA. Okay.
Wasn't designated.
I'm going to have you stay up there, Tara. We're going to move something from the consent agenda item just because it makes sense with where we are. We have 3 positions that we're going to ask for approval. I think it dovetails into Tara's presentation nicely. The first one is the .5 ABA at the preschool and the .5 FTE teacher at the preschool to move from a .5 to a 1.0. Just if Ms. Sosha and Tara could speak briefly to that.
Sure. So I started off already just with a reminder for 3-year-olds that we have to be ready for students to turn 3 in Douglas every day throughout the school year. So we just have to be careful when we're signing up our non-disabled students that we're making sure that we have spaces available. So I'll let Ms. Sosha talk about what she has for current registration.
don't know about the enrollment, but preschool is booming. So this year, currently, we have 54 students, and that's 3-year-old and 4-year-old. And to date, I have 77 registered for next year. So that's an increase of 23. In just the 3-year-olds, this year we started with 8 in a session. So sessions would be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Tuesday, Thursday. We're up to 13 and 14 right now. And for next year, we're looking at 17, which isn't doable in the morning. And that's a mix of your general ed students and your early intervention. Early intervention is very tricky. We never know what we're getting. There have been years where we get 3 students. This year, we had picked up 4 early intervention with a possible 3 more before the school year ends. For next year, we're looking at a possible 12. So that's where our numbers are.
How do you decide who gets in and who doesn't?
Right now, we've accommodated everyone. We do have a wait list typically, but throughout the summer, things change. Families change from 5 full days to maybe 5 half days, so we're able to adjust everyone. We've been able to fit everyone in, but this year it'd be impossible to have those 3-year-olds. We'd be totally out of compliance. You have to have a certain ratio of general ed and your early intervention children.
The district has to provide services for any children that qualify at
For EI.
Correct.
Right.
So if you had like 15 kids that needed services and you had like 10 general eds, you could tell those general ed kids, sorry, you can't come, but the kids that need the services can?
No, because we're integrated, so you have to have that mix.
Okay, that's what I was asking.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to figure out, like who gets
Right.
in and who doesn't, okay.
Mm-hmm. So by having an afternoon session, we'd be able to divide them up so that we'd have that appropriate mix in the morning and then another session in the afternoon.
Have the 3-year-olds not been in the full-day program ever before?
No.
Okay. But there are 4-year-olds in the half-day programs at times?
Yes, 4-year-olds have an option.
Okay.
Sure.
25 3-year-olds in one class.
Scary.
There's a lot of bodies.
One of the other challenges too, just with 3-year-olds, we're getting move-ins of more severely involved students, if you will. So they're coming from full-day programming. Right now, we're having to pay area districts to accommodate our 3-year-olds in their full-day programs because we can't offer that. So that's something that we need to be prepared for too.
So your general ed preschoolers, are they going to be offered full day as well, or are they going to be the ones doing? Because I know in other places I've seen where they can either go in the morning session or they can go in the afternoon session.
So you're talking 3-year-olds or 4-year-olds? Right now, 4-year-olds have the option. Everyone has an option of AM or full day. We don't really have a separate afternoon session.
Okay.
Just because of the way the program works, where the kids go to lunch, then they go to nap. So if they signed up for an afternoon in a 4-year-old program, there's not a lot of academics in the afternoon, so they kind of load it into the morning.
Okay.
And then typically, if you had an AM, if I think back maybe 5 or 7 years, when we had strictly AM and PM, that's when there's a lunch break for the teachers and the staff in between the day.
Okay, so for the 3-year-olds, there is going to be an option for the general ed students for a full day, or is that going to be split? That'll be split.
I think it would be as needed. We just ran into one situation this year. We have not had a full day option at all for 3-year-olds, but like Tara said, someone came in from another district who had that in their IEP. We don't offer it, so that would be something we would have to adapt as needed.
What happens if your ratio is not sufficient of general ed students? Like, let's say you have 14 kids come in on an IEP, come in out of early intervention, and you only have 4 general ed students sign up.
And so I think that's the thought process with the 2 half sessions for general education students to only be in the half session. So it's 14 in total for gen ed students right now, I believe. So if you had 7 and 7, that allots for 7 special education on both.
Okay, so it's 50-50 is the ratio.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
It still could be close. We don't know. That's the problem with the early intervention. I mean, right now, at the end, it's toward the end of the year, we're picking up more and more of those early intervention. We're real close to that ratio, but that's going to happen every year by the time May comes. And the teacher that we have right now is more than willing to take on the afternoon, and so is the ABA.
So you're looking to vote on this, right?
Looking for a motion.
I move to approve the change in the preschool FTE servicing 3-year-olds from 0.5 FTE ABA and 0.5 FTE teacher to 1.0 FTE positions. The funding for the increases of approximately $41,000 plus increases pursuant to the DTA contract will be a combination of general fund and the preschool revolving fund.
Motion made by Becky, second by?
Second.
Second by Monique. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Next, Ms. Sobolewski spoke to it earlier, but we'll add again, is the addition of the Douglas High School 1 FTE severe special needs education teacher. So, Tav, you could just go over that?
Sure, yep. So again, the thought process is so that our Stars and Stripes students can be working on their two separate programming needs with a licensed professional teacher for both of them. So we want to increase students' access to the community in our Stripes program. We want students in the Stars program to continue to have the time on learning that they need. With cohorts of 3, it seems like a sustainable model for at least the next 3 years. Again, there's that cultural piece that you've got to consider with that program. We anticipate the financial impact to be about $50,000 for the position, with the funding source to be the general fund. So we'd be looking for a motion on that.
I move to approve the,
I'd like to have some more conversation first. So, do we currently have a waiver for the Stars and Stripes program as it is right now?
Correct.
Okay. When are those waivers due by? When districts apply for them?
So you need to have the waiver in place before those students can actually be cohorted together. So you need to do it every school year. So if it's going to continue to be that we have over a 72-month age gap, that's a July necessity.
So the deadline would be by July?
We would submit it in July. And the
you would-
students technically are not supposed to be cohorted together unless we get the waiver approved.
Okay, and when would approval come by if it's submitted in July?
Hopefully early August.
So I'm going to cut to the chase here. I feel like, and Tara, I really don't mean this with any disrespect, but both this and the 1.0 FD special ed team chair to special education coordination position, I don't like restructuring things this significantly when someone is leaving the district, when the head of the department is leaving the district. I feel like it makes the most sense to be making major structural changes with somebody who is going to be implementing the changes, there for it, there for the process. I don't think that we should be voting on this tonight. That's my opinion.
I'll come in second, what you just said, Becky, too. I'm concerned. We're gonna go through a big recruit, fill, interim, what we're gonna do with special ed. This is the most vulnerable population we have in our school. And for us to sit here and make a determination right now with not knowing which way we're gonna go as a district, I'm gravely concerned. And so for that reason, I think we've done a lot this past year to the special ed department and to the kids in that department. I think that this is not appropriate at this point, just because of, unfortunately, you're going to leave us. The families, I think, we heard, but it's not just Beth that we hear from. We hear from other parents that talk to us offline via emails, phone calls, in the community. We're out, hey, you got 5 minutes to talk to me about this? I just think that this is not the year. We can probably do this maybe next year when we have some permanent in place and look to maybe make those changes. I understand there's a waiver process, but right now it's not broken. There's a waiver process in place. We've been successful in getting the waiver. I don't think this is appropriate at the time. And that's just my 2 cents. I don't speak for the entire board. Everybody has, we can put the motion forward, but I don't feel that this is the appropriate time to be doing this.
So I can understand what both of you are saying, and I get that sense. And Beth, what you've said too. I also see this as some huge opportunity for capacity building in our special education department. And I don't want to lose sight of that because, the more that we can provide to our students, that's critical. So part of me is, so I agree with you, but I also, like I said, don't want to lose sight of this because I feel very strongly that this is an opportunity to increase our district's capacity to service our special ed students, to the point where every student's different, and like my comment earlier, where right now it's a great program, but our activities are in the middle, where I feel like we could really be elevating it even further. There's a potential here to be able to do that. And so, if we don't vote on it tonight, I would be okay with that, but I don't want to lose sight of this. And I want to bring this back, and I want to talk about it a lot. I want, parents, I would love to hear from parents, but I do see that this is a huge opportunity for us to increase our ability to better service every student.
And I agree with you, Monique. Let me be clear. I don't not believe you when you say that parents, I'm not believing you when you say that parents are feeling like there's not enough of those vocational opportunities and that there's not enough of that time outside of the classroom, or that there's not more potential to, and I trust Josh, that there's more potential to streamline so we don't have 5 different things going on at the same time. I believe that there is a way to improve, a way to do more, a way to push more. It's for me, it really boils down to two major things. We're losing you, and the SPED department has been through a lot of changes on top of all of the social and emotional strife that all of us have gone through, including a population that, for some of whom, have an even harder time articulating it than anybody. And then on top of that is the budget piece. We're looking at the sustainability of what we're going through with the budget, and 50 grand isn't nothing. That's something that could be going towards an adjustment counselor in the middle school. That's something that could be going towards something else. So, and also the state has their processes for a reason. So if we apply for the waiver in good faith and they turn it down, that forces our hand. But if we apply for it in good faith and they say, yes, this is the type of district and this is the type of situation that this is appropriate for, then we know that we're doing all right by the kids too. So I agree with you. I'm not saying let's never talk about this again. I just don't like the idea of rushing into it right now.
So what about the, separating the two between the coordinator and, the Stars and Stripes, maybe we talk about at a different time, but the coordinator position right now?
So let's finish, let's do step one, which would be.
Okay, so Stars and Stripes is
Stars and
what we're
Stripes.
talking about now?
Stars and
Okay.
Stripes
So they are being separate?
They are separate.
Okay, because Becky, it sounded like
I did try to put them
It sounded
together.
like you were enveloping.
I was making a little Becky
together.
sandwich. No.
They are separate.
Let's break it up into pieces.
We got a lot to do tonight, Monique. I'm trying to be efficient.
This has some important stuff.
No, I
too,
know,
so.
of course.
It's critical. We're all passionate. We all have different viewpoints, but there's just been a lot of focus on special ed this entire year, and no fault of your own, Tara. It's one of those where we got to do right by all the kids as well as the community as well. So.
Well, I think there's a huge credit to you also with your expertise, where you've come from, your experience, you've been able to set eyes and see areas where we can improve. And I think that's hugely valuable. I don't think we should be losing sight of that. And, you know, I appreciate that because I am passionate about moving, and I think these ladies here are as well, and our administration, moving this district forward so that we can be a name in the area, in this area of Massachusetts. You know, people are going to know Douglas. That's what I want, in a good way. You know, like everybody's going to want to come here. That's what I want this district to be. Whether you're special ed, you know, general ed, gifted, whatever you are. That this, I want to be able to do some great things here for everybody. So,
This is a pretty historic conversation that we're having, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I've been on the school committee for a very long time, and anytime somebody from the special ed, so I'm mostly referring to Neely, coming here and presenting a proposal of, we need to have this position filled, here's how much it costs, it was an automatic yes. Like, you never said no, because we hired Neely just like we hired you to have the professional knowledge and wisdom to know what the school needed, what the departments needed, what was best for this community. So I'm struggling with this because I always hated to say, yes, let's spend more money. I do not have as much experience in special ed as some other people on the committee do. So I'm just saying, in my opinion, that I feel this is historic because we're actually saying no. I feel like almost one of the first times ever to a request to do something that the special education department believes that is in the best interest of the department. So I just want to put that out there.
I feel like maybe you could take some comfort in the fact that three of us who have deep connections to special ed are balking at it.
Exactly. So that's why I said it's
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we just want to do right by the community as well as the kids, and I appreciate you coming forth, but I'd like us to make a motion to either table it or go forth with the motion that's presented with us. And when I say table it, it will come back in the fall. Once we figure out what we're doing with special ed, it'll be one of those discussion points where we bring special ed in. I think we need to bring the CPAC into as well and have a community forum of where our district is going with special ed and why we need to separate the Stars and Stripes program.
I think we can be discussing that before the fall. I mean, like, the thing
Yes.
is, if we apply for a waiver and we don't get the waiver, then we need to hire a teacher.
Okay,
And we
so
don't
are
want to
there-
be trying to hire a teacher in September at all.
Are there any legal ramifications if we vote no? That's always the question, to be honest.
I think if you apply for the waiver and you don't get it, you've got to make a tough decision of where you're taking another teacher from.
Or trying to hire one on the spot.
Or figuring
Which
out
is
how
why-
to add the teacher.
Which
Correct,
is why I think
correct.
that what Heather is saying about having a look at putting more community time into, I mean, we have a wellness committee, we had like the Blueprint for Success committee. I think if we are able to put more stakeholders into having time at looking at this, at understanding it, at seeing what it looks like, at seeing maybe how other districts do it, other districts who are having success with a split, that sort of thing. I think that can be happening soon, you know, prior to waiver applications or anything like that. But change is always hard. I don't want to say like no to change just because it's scary, but yeah, making there an involvement and an investment in whatever the changes are, I think that could make a difference. And if it turns out that what we're doing is good, but it needs like some tweaking as opposed to more of a major overhaul, then that's great. Then that's $50,000 that a district that really needs $50,000 can use for other important things. So I don't know.
Are we going to table it? What are we going to do with the vote?
How do you feel about this, Dr. Vera?
So there's a couple different ways to handle it. Someone can make a motion. If there's no second, it stops right there. If there is a second, then the committee would vote, and however the vote ends up, the vote ends up. And then if the vote ends up in the positive, then the position goes through. If it ends up in the negative, then it stops. But there's no reason why you couldn't ask me in a June or a July school committee meeting to give an update on where the Stars and Stripes population are, where we are with a new director of special education, and revisit this in June, July, or August.
Okay, so I move to approve the addition of 1.0 FTE special ed teacher at Douglas High School. Funding for this position is anticipated to be the general fund.
Motion made by Julie, sorry. Second by? Since there's no move for a second, this doesn't get approved, so
Correct.
we will revisit this. Dr. Vera?
Sure. In July. And then the last piece is the 1.0 FTE to move the team chair position to a special education coordinator position. Ms. Sobolewski, if you could just give a quick overview of that.
Yep. Right now, the special education coordinator is an administrator, 12-month administrator. Team chair is a DTA member, both doing similar jobs. Special ed coordinator has more responsibilities outside of DTA hours, if you will. Looking to change the team chairperson to a special education coordinator to allow for those additional hours.
Could you also speak a little bit to their caseload, the total caseload in numbers?
Sure, yeah, so they both have a student caseload of 120 students. So they're running 120 annuals. That works out to be, a third of your caseload would be reevals each year. So add 40 reevaluations and then any initials that come up at each building. So they're running those meetings, but they're also front-loading the paperwork and managing the paperwork after that, which historically was done by liaisons for the annuals, but that was a piece that was taken off of them, so they weren't spending so much time on that clerical piece, so we could increase their time servicing students.
And the liaisons are typically like the special ed teachers from
Correct.
each grade?
Right, or the service providers, yep.
So I move to approve to change the 1.0 FTE special education team chair position that's currently in the general fund budget to a 1.0 FTE special education coordinator position.
Motion made by Julie, second by?
I do second this. I feel like I should have an opportunity to talk because somebody in the audience was concerned about this. And, that's important to me as well. But again, I see this as an opportunity for us to build our capacity in the special education department, taking things off the plates of the teachers and the personnel that are closest to our students and families so that they can have more time for students and families. And so that is why I'm seconding this.
Thank you, Monique.
Just mathematically, if one person chairs every annual, every 3-year reeval, every initial, there aren't enough hours in the day for one person to do that. So the model prior to 2-3 years ago was having your liaisons chair the meetings. They were chairing 10, 15, 20. They were responsible for 10, 15, 20 students, sometimes running 20, 30, 40 meetings a year, those meetings being anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 hours a meeting, plus the time associated with prepping beforehand and doing the work afterhand. That's all time the teachers aren't working with kids. So putting that roughly breaks out to about 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, if you spread it out over the course of a year. Putting that time back where teachers are working with kids is critical. The going to one team chair, there's no way they could run all the meetings. It just, the math wouldn't work.
So motion made by Julie, second by Monique. All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
And the last piece of my report is Mr. Romano, and as he walks up, his foot's asleep. I just want to wish Mr. Romano luck tomorrow. Tomorrow, after a long 3-year journey, he defends his dissertation, and if all goes right at about 3:35 tomorrow, Mr. Romano will become Dr. Romano. I'm not going to jinx it, but you don't get this. They won't let you defend unless they know you're ready. So publicly, good luck to you tomorrow, Josh.
Thank you very much. So Mary Sokol said that she wants to call me Dr. J. So he has a line of sneakers, so I'll design like a line of loafers or something. So Dr. Vieira asked me to come tonight to talk about the senior activities, and there's a whole bunch of them, and it is going out. It's in my blog, and then I'm going to put it out as a letter to the senior parents too, because you can hand it to a senior, and they're still, it's that same student that stuff disappeared in their backpack when they were in first grade. So same thing. We got to send it directly to the parents, but there's a lot going on. So Zofia already spoke about prom, April 14th. She talked about the Disney trip. There's an art show, May 18th. It's not just seniors, but it's a fun thing, and that is it's usually on a school committee night. I don't remember if May 18th is a school committee evening, but so you guys can swing by and check it out. There's a spring play that will be May 27th. I don't know what the play is yet. It's kind of a surprise to me. Dr. Vieira and I very much enjoyed Clue, so I'm looking forward to what they come up with for May 27th. And there'll be a spring concert. It's not on the calendar yet. I know that Mr. Doncourt is planning one, but there'll be a spring concert. I think they're just coordinating the time. All right, the real senior stuff. Final exams are May 24th through the 27th. So that's a Tuesday through Friday. So their last day of classes is that Monday, May 23rd. On that Friday, they'll also return their Chromebooks. They'll get their health forms. They'll get their guidance forms. They'll get all of that stuff. Monday's a holiday. That next week is when it gets really busy. So on Tuesday, May 31st, the kids will get their caps and gowns, and then we'll do the motorcade. That's going to start at 5 o'clock. So kids should arrive around 4:30. And after the motorcade goes through, and right now it's still the same route that we did last year. We took off that one little section where it was hard for the fire trucks to get around. After that, we'll go right into class night, so 5:30-ish. We're going to keep doing it outside. We've done it 2 years in a row. It's an official tradition, and I like the atmosphere of it. I think the juniors are going to be selling food and drink this year, and we'll go ahead and we'll do that class night. Rain date is the next day if necessary. Wednesday, this was a change, so if anything had gone out a few weeks ago, this was changed. Instead of doing a breakfast, they're going to do a senior picnic at 1 o'clock. Before that, they'll do their senior parade, and that's when they go through the other schools in their caps and gowns, and they shake hands, and it's fun. Same thing, rain date will be the next day if we have to. So baccalaureate. A lot of people have been asking about baccalaureate, and I do enjoy baccalaureate. I don't want anybody to think I don't enjoy baccalaureate. I love it because I don't have to do anything for it. I show up, I talk to kids, it's wonderful. During the time of COVID, there was a lot of turnover among the clergy, and I can't, as a government entity, as a person who's in a government entity, I can't plan a religious service. Now, I do have a plan to try to get something going for next year again. It's not going to work out this year. Short of me actually sitting down and planning it, which I cannot do that. I can't plan a religious service as a public school employee. Now, the highlight of baccalaureate, besides that I didn't have to do anything, was always having the kids sing. The senior chorus would perform. So we're going to have them perform instead at graduation. So I was talking to Mr. Doncourt about it today. He's got a plan. He's got a backup plan. He's got a third plan because it's just how he is. I guess if that doesn't work, I'll sing. But the seniors are going to perform at graduation instead to kind of make up for that piece of baccalaureate. The other highlight of baccalaureate is the class advisor speech, and Bree Nowicki is willing to forego it for this year. She's willing to do that. I think that she should do it anyway, but so we'll work on bringing something like that back for next year, but it's going to take me some time to get that together.
Is there a thought of maybe doing it at graduation, letting her do a speech at graduation?
She doesn't want to do a speech.
I'll try it.
It's a class advisor tradition. They never want to actually do a speech. I don't know why. I give one every year. It's
Maybe
fun.
on senior night?
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, she'll address them at the senior picnic too, which is a lot of fun. And then Friday is the main event. So Friday is graduation. It'll be 5:30 on the field. If it rains, we'll push it back exactly 24 hours to Saturday at 5:30. If it rains, then we'll move it back another 24 hours to Sunday at 5:30. And I know that sometimes that means, your aunt and uncle came in from out of town and they won't be able to stay. But if we move it to indoors, it's so limited to how many people we can put in there that if we move it indoors, auntie and uncle aren't going to be able to go anyway. So outside is so much nicer. Ethan graduated outside. It was very, very nice.
Coolest experience.
It's very nice out there. So We'll go with outside. We don't do tickets. We don't worry about that. You can bring your own lawn chair if you want. I think we got like 700 seats, which should be plenty. But people bring their own too. So, and the same thing, we'll have the shuttle buses that'll bring people over. You know, 'cause parking's kind of limited here, so we'll shuttle people over. And at the end of that, we are doing pins. So I don't want to. It's not. Is it a lock-in? Is that the right term for it now? The post.
Yeah, but I think
Graduation
they
party.
they-
So the lock-in that they do at Pins, and we'll still be doing that too. So that's Friday night, no matter what, because we can only get Pins. So if that's why we don't do like Saturday noon graduation, because the kids will be at Pins all night. If for a rain thing, they'd be at Pins all night, leaving there at like 5. They're not going to be ready to do graduation at noon. So, all right.
Two things.
Yes.
One, prom.
Yep.
So kids just drive themselves. Like in the years past, there used to be this amazing thing that you guys used to do, and it hasn't been done many years.
The bus.
Well, the
reenactment is
yeah, I'm not sure what the words would be.
What was it again?
That
It was Mr.
reenactment-
Mains's.
Mr. Means, yeah. The
The mock accident.
Yes.
Yep. So we.
We're not supposed to talk about that.
No, we can. It's okay. Yeah, I think that that's something that we can put back on the agenda for next year. You know, it's a lot of coordination, a lot of planning. Like, I mean, you said we tried to get helicopters last time, so we were going to do a simulated life flight. Yeah, we'll put it on for next year because we haven't done it during the COVID time. It was going to be really hard to do it during COVID, but we haven't done it for a few years. I think Mr. Main's last year, I think, was the last time that we did it. And I'm sure that he won't mind offering some technical advice on it. He left me all of his materials on it. So yeah, that was a very effective thing that we did. We do have some other, did I get that grant? We applied for a safety grant from the Attorney General's office, and I need to see what oh no, that's paying for pins. So
like, I'm gonna sound like such a mom right now, and I'm not overly concerned, and I know it's really a parent's responsibility, but it's prom. We were all at prom. We know what we do. Has there been any like talks or like any preparation, with the kids?
as far as the
I'm
drinking
trying to
and
be as nice as
Yep. No, I mean, I do it every time I meet with them with the class. I always remind them, they need to look out for each other. I don't want that empty chair at graduation thing. I don't want anything like that. That they need to make sure that they take care of each other. Other districts, they do. Parents kind of plan a lock-in or post-graduation party. I was talking to Derek Atherton over at Hopedale about how they do it just last week, and I think that is a good idea for us to find something like that because, like you said, I mean.
Well, it's next week, so I mean.
It's not going to happen this year, but.
It sounds like this is just like, it's happening.
The
and
way that
it
they,
is what it is.
yeah, the way that they do it in Hopedale, like I like what they do. It's a lot of work by parents, but I think that if we can put something like that together, it helps to make sure that the kids are safe after prom. So what they do is something similar to what we do with pins, but instead of doing it after graduation, they do it after prom.
So, like I said, prom's next week, so maybe you can have.
Yeah, it's not going to happen this year, but
Little reminder to the kids before prom.
Yeah,
just,
definitely, yeah.
I mean, they're going to do what they want to do, but I think it's just good to have that in their ears. Second question is in regards to scholarships, because so last year the same person, God bless him, got pretty much all the scholarships. And I know it's not a ton of money. It's hard when you're like, well, I have to spend 3 hours writing a dissertation for $250, but $250 can add up. So I just would like to encourage kids to just apply for some of them. And if, somebody has to get it, and if only one person applies, or 2 people, it's 1 or 2 of you that's going to get it.
that
the
makes
local ones.
you're 100% right. That makes me crazy every year because I sit on some of these. And any student who's a resident of Douglas can apply for most of these grants. So that means even if the student went to BVT or Norfolk Aggie or private school, they can apply for it. And the first year that I did these, we had 7 applicants who turned in packets, and only 4 of them were Douglas kids. So, a lot of money. And not that I begrudge a Douglas resident who chose to go someplace else, but like these are my kids, and I kind of want to take care of them. And so, yeah. We keep pushing them that, like you said, it adds up. So like that one, Dr. Vera and I were talking about this a couple weeks ago to make sure that things get spread out a little bit better by having more kids apply. Because
Sticker
that
shock.
one student
Sticker
did
shock
great.
will be happening very soon. That's why I say that.
Yes, yep.
Maybe we could reach out to the Douglas Police Department to put on their Facebook page the motorcade route, because I think that families who are not necessarily like getting the district news or in the high school, if their house is on the route, they might pop out and give a shout out to, which makes it cool.
Ooh, they
There's
can almost
more.
do something for the prom too.
Right.
Prom safety or something.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I'll ask Brett to take care of that. Anything else? All right.
Thank you
luck
so much.
tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Good luck.
And just the last thing that's on the agenda is tomorrow we are putting on a Blackstone Valley Job Fair. It's something I've been working with area superintendents. There's about 7 schools that are participating in it. We're hosting it at Milford because they have the actual volume and space for it. So really excited to do a job fair, something new to the area, something a little bit different. So we hope to be able to start getting some applications in and meet some prospective people. So excited to do that job fair. It's also good to put our name out there and see people doing that. So with that said, I think that might be the longest of my reports.
It's only 3 bullet points, too.
It's only 3 bullet points.
Holy moly.
But we will turn it over now to the account payables.
Oh, Courtney, is this the whole packet that I'm talking about?
Well, in your packet, as far as what you need.
I didn't sign every one of these, but, oh, it is all this stuff. All right.
Yeah.
So the warrants that were signed, and a couple of them are signed actually by Becky because I could not get out of work to do them. So we have warrant 31 SCH 22, date of that was January 27th, 2022. So that was for $349,602.69. The next warrant that was signed was for $265,999.83. That was warrant 32 SCH 22, dated 2/4/2022. Bunch of grants and general fund expenses. A lot of grants, actually. And then there was warrant 35 SCH 22, dated February 24th, 2022. And that was for $284,356, and that was general fund, school choice, mostly. And then warrant 37 SCH 22, dated March 10th, 2022. That was for $265,999.83. Then the next one was for March 17th, 2022. The warrant was 38 SCH 22, and that was for $72,248.64. School choice food services, student activity. The next one was warrant 39 SCH 22, and that was dated March 24th, 2022 for $72,687.51. That was school choices and grants, general funds, food services. And finally, the last warrant that was signed was 40 SCH 22, and the warrant date was March 31st, 2022, and that was $31,347.48. Bunch of different funds. That's it.
It doesn't. So who do I ask? It's okay. Courtney? I have a question. On warrant 37 SCH 22.
Find that.
March 10th? That's what I'm thinking. So I'm just wondering, is the total maybe a typo?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like the
God,
same number.
yes.
Because it's the same number on a previous page where the list looks to
I thought that's
Yeah.
right.
go
I
along
thought,
with it.
I thought that number sounded familiar.
Okay.
That was on there. Yep.
So the warrant
So why
was-
don't you just read, if you could read that one, all the separate ones, the separate batches?
Yeah, so for the warrant 37 SCH 22, can you just read the,
Yeah, so that's actually supposed to be, so 37 SCH 22, and that date is 3/10/22. So that total actually was incorrect. So you had school choice that was $13,414.80. Food services was $6,002.89. The SR2 grant was $8,898.80. General fund school choice was $14,286.25. Food service fund was $19.56, and the high school student activity fund was $10,393.07, which gives the warrant total of whatever that may be.
You guys thought I did that in my head.
Well, it doesn't
Been a
matter
long
because it
day.
actually becomes a big part of the entire school warrant, so, so, yeah. But, okay. Sorry about that.
Next, moving on to the consent agenda, if we could look at the March 16th, 2022 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any issue with making a motion?
If they could add my first name into the school committee members present.
Yeah,
But otherwise,
I make a motion to approve the school committee meeting minutes for March 16th, 2022 as amended.
second.
Motion made by Lisa, second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What's your new name?
So next is the FY '23, school budget. I presented a couple of different times to the committee. We had the opportunity to present to the public, and now this is the committee's opportunity to ask questions if they have any on the budget and the presentation.
So I have kind of a broad question. There's a lot of entries in the FY 2022 approved budget that are zeros that then have values of, I don't know, a couple thousand here and there. Can you talk about
And you know
that?
why? Because, that's an excellent question, and thank you for asking. That is because in FY '22, that actual budget, part of the overall appropriation, was funded by either school choice, circuit breaker, or whatever, so there was no general fund budget in FY '22 for that line.
So it's not that those expenses were not there?
Right.
Correct, okay.
Right.
So
But it's general fund, so if I were to do for each one of these years, we would have 10 things going this way. Because I'd have to show the gross amount, the offset, and then the net amount for each of those 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then
a good question.
the central office salaries, we had already approved an increase prior that does not take effect until 2023?
We haven't done anything with ours
I
yet.
thought that we did an increase like a year ago.
We did.
Oh, no, for FY '22.
For FY '22, we have
Yeah.
not.
We haven't brought
submitted a
anything yet.
request for
Yeah.
FY '23.
But the salaries are the same from 21 actuals to 22 approved. If I look at.
Because that is the budget that you approved, and then afterwards is when we had to do the increase, because I have to put here what was actually approved, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what we see in the 2022 column is what was approved, but what
Approved.
was actually paid out is
And it was
different.
subsequent to that it was probably in June, oh my goodness, I think last year was unbelievable, I think it was August that
No,
we
it was,
actually.
it was early, I think it was in June we did it.
So the increases that we see from like
We
the
redid
from
the
the,
budget in August, yeah.
so the increases that we see from the subtotal, like the total lines for each of those subsections is not really that much of a jump. Like, let's say total superintendent 190 from 2022 is 198, 198 to 232.
So actually, what you
590 is
currently
not.
see in the FY '23, if it happens to be,
Yeah.
includes the 2% that we got in FY '22, because
Okay.
we still are at where we are now, because we
Okay.
still haven't brought forward what we, for non-union and for administrators,
Okay, and then
because we didn't know how things were gonna fall out with the budget,
okay,
so.
and then can you tell me about first line? the 2022 approved budget for school committee salary wage adjustments.
Yeah,
it cracks me up. I'm like,
I had that
who's
circled.
getting that
I was
280
like, yeah,
grand? I can tell from the note, obviously.
Yeah, that's
Top
that's
line,
the salary wage adjustment line, that anytime we have anything that we're proposing, so for instance, if we are in negotiations
Yeah.
with anybody at all,
Yeah.
whatever we are thinking that it just goes in that line as a lump sum. So if you recall, on March 22nd, actually,
Okay.
we had a much larger number in that top line.
So no.
But I have been able to move
included in that?
a large amount out of that line into the appropriate lines.
Yeah. Okay.
Given where we are at this
Okay.
point. But we have not done anything yet with admin and non-union.
Okay. It's a funny place to see it. Like, wait a minute.
But I do explain, though, it's not, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not, yeah.
I know, you just had the same thing circled. Can you, so that number, what,
Which here?
this number here, yeah? The 232?
The 230. Well, that's what I was just asking about. So
Yeah.
the major.
Is that all already approved? That we already talked about that stuff?
Well, we didn't approve the 2023 budget yet, but what my Becky summary of what was just said was that, so in 2021, the actual, like, let's say superintendent salary, right, was 145K. When we initially approved the FY 2022, it was still 145K. However, after we approved the 2022 budget, we also approved, so after the budget was approved, we approved an increase for the central office.
Okay.
It was it straight two? And then a little bit additional for the elementary school principal because there was a really big gap with,
It was last year.
so that happened afterwards, but those numbers aren't reflected in this line.
Okay.
So the 2% increase is actually happening in the FY 2022, but that's not what you see. You see
Just
what
like,
was approved.
what about,
prior
like, the
to.
travel, meals, hotel tolls? Like, that's,
So do you see
Something that
that
we
in
have
FY '22, the top
already
line has that larger number? That's where it was. It was in the budget. It was accounted for.
the $9,100 was accounted for?
$9,100? I don't know what you're,
Travel, meals, hotel tolls.
oh, I thought you were still talking about the,
So last year.
It's part of that.
So in FY '22.
Yeah.
In FY '22, we used revolving funds.
right.
Okay.
To pay for
Yeah.
that. In FY '23, we're going to use the general budget.
Okay.
That changes every year. It all depends on how much. It has wavered so much as far
Okay.
as school choice and things of that nature. And we've gotten so large with the use of school choice that I start off with the largest expenditures. I do the electricity, I do the fuel, and anything that's large. And then it's gotten so large that I actually have to go through the entire budget and see where I can offset it. It's going to be different every single year. Because also the budget changes every year as well.
So the zeros are not actually that we spent $0 on it or that there was $0 in the budget. It's just what we're looking at. It's just the numbers that we're taking from the town
Right,
appropriate, from the general fund.
right.
Like, so those are so like the due, again, like dues memberships on the last line of the superintendent category was not, I assume, actually $0 this past fiscal year. It's just that was paid out of
Right.
a different fund.
Because each year, I am presenting to you the full operating budget as I am in FY '23. And I'm also doing the offsets and then the net for the appropriation. So if you look at the last page, it comes down to the 14,000,727 that was approved, that was the approved budget, and it equals to the dollar, as it has to, because that's what Gene wants to see, the amount that was appropriated at town meeting by the town.
So
In FY '23, I'm giving you the full operating budget, as I do every single year, and then the offsets, and then I come down to the town meeting appropriated amount. Well, this is the proposed town meeting appropriated amount. I know we haven't gotten to town meeting yet, but.
So Paul, I'm wondering if you can tackle this one for me. When I look at I wish we had, maybe, I don't know if it's somewhere. Do we have the general fund budget appropriation without offsets in FY '22?
The general fund.
So,
I don't have it with me, no.
okay.
No,
So-
because it was last year's budget, and it did have all that detail. It had the gross amount, the offsets, and then the net.
Okay,
course, it all ends up changing all through the year.
Right,
you
right,
know.
which I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
The $18 million as the operating budget prior to the use of revolving funds and grants, and considering what is in the town appropriation, how do we keep this going? Like, how are we going to be able to do level services the year after that, or potentially have growth?
So, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, system, so there's a couple things going on. One, the new proposed, contract negotiations with the teachers' union is going to add some stability to the structure and allow for that to happen.
Yep.
The next piece is there is additional growth in town, both residential and potentially commercial, which is going to add to the tax base, which could add to the appropriation amount where this year was 2%. I can't speak for the town manager, I can't speak for the finance committee or board of selectmen, but that could increase from 2% to 3%, 4%, 5%. You're talking about a high, but
12%.
it's late at night. I got on a roll once I
Yeah,
started
don't stop
adding.
on 3.
So I stopped on 3. So that would be how it would be sustained. So it's a combination of the new salary grid with the teachers and adding some stability, and then hopefully some increased revenue both from commercial and residential tax base.
I think, for me personally, it's hard to be critical of any way that this district spends money, because, like, we know where we fall with expenditures. We know where we fall with what kind of support we get from the state. And yeah, it's frustrating. It's not an enviable task, for sure. I just,
And that's why I think in that fourth slide, I talked, because, I try to be positive. I want to be positive. It's important to do that. But I also wanted just to highlight that we want to grow and we want to continue to grow. And we have a .5 position for our grounds. We have, how many acres, Courtney?
Oh, I can't remember.
Okay, sorry. We have a lot of acreage and we have a part-time
Huge,
position
huge
who does our
increase.
entire grounds. We have.
Well, and the facilities manager ends up doing a
And the-
lot of it, so that pulls him away from other things he's supposed to be doing.
So we need additional resources
Yeah.
for our grounds to be able to do things. I would love to see, as I talked about, adding staff, and I know that there's dollars associated with that, but if you look at, the primary school, it'd be great to have a STEM teacher in there. It'd be great to increase opportunities for our preschool kids to have specials. It'd be awesome to have a reading coach and a math coach in order to be able to provide more interventions and more resources to staff. It'd be awesome to be able to expand our Title I program or have the funding to expand that Tier 2 interventions that Tara talked about in order to make sure we're catching kids early on at Tier 1 and Tier 2, so it doesn't tax special education staff. I know high school language teachers would love to see Spanish expanded to the 6th and 7th grade, and as a former language teacher, I would love to see Spanish expanded to the 6th and 7th grade to give kids more opportunities at the high school. So there's a lot of things that we could go on and on. We would love the importance of an HR director in the district for so many reasons, an assistant superintendent of curriculum assessment and instruction to really focus in on that. Our class sizes in some of our grade levels, which we alluded to at the middle school and at the elementary school, would be great if we had the ability to add 2 or 3 positions to drop those class sizes to the high teens, low 20s. So many things. So that's why I added that slide, so people don't think that what we have is perfect and we don't need anything else. But to your point, we do need to continue to grow. And if there were additional resources in there, there are a plethora of things we could do.
As you know, it is very, 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 very difficult, and I say the very enough,
You said enough.
to get this budget. I mean, it just barely made it for tonight, to get it, balanced. And it's, all of our administrators are so cognizant of the limitation on funding that, they don't even ask for a lot. you know, and then we end up still taking some away. It's just, it's very difficult.
I think
And that's why I did put myself out, you know, as far as recommendations for revolving funds, because we can't keep taking away. You know, like I said, we're not able to add these things, but even, you know, we want to take away as little as possible as well.
Right.
in that other,
You know,
I liked that Courtney did the slides with the different buckets and where the percentages of the overall general fund's going. And so we're looking at about 97% of the budget going towards special ed and contracted services. If you just look at that other line includes a lot of our subscriptions, a lot of our, iPass, Teach Point. It includes professional development. It would be great to beef up that line to give teachers the PD that they so need, so want, to bring in people to offer professional development in-house to people, to staff, but also to send staff out. So when you're looking at making cuts, even if you cut the other in half, it's really not putting a substantive dent in the $18 million budget. Everything we have is salaries and is staff and contracted services.
Do we know how our percentages, our like salaries and other compensation compares in general to like other schools in the Blackstone Valley? Is it typical for it to be about 87%?
It's usually around that 80, 85.
Okay.
right in there.
Okay, so we're not off with that.
No.
We're just working with a smaller pie.
Correct.
To divvy up.
That's a good way of putting it.
The questions.
So if we approve this tonight, then what happens next with it?
So you approve it tonight, and then the next step would be town meeting on May 2nd, that Monday.
Could there be any changes to this prior to the town meeting and after approval of it tonight?
I hope
I
not.
don't anticipate, I guess I want to remind everyone, because I know it's very, very difficult, you know, the whole thing. So just always keep in mind that when you approve a budget, it's going to change 100 times between now and the end of next year,
Yeah.
okay? So let's look at it in a positive way. We have a balanced budget with what is proposed for the town meeting, okay? We do have, in the interest of full disclosure, obviously, we do have that, the budget for the high school in here, but obviously we will not be touching it or doing anything with it until you approve it. But if we, you know, regardless of what happens with the waiver or whatever, you know, we can make decisions, July, August, that money is in there. It won't be touched as far as hiring any staff, and we can certainly, and as we do all the, well, not as much this year as you've seen, I haven't been able to get to it, but you know how when we do transfers and things of that nature going forward. And then after we close the year, if we do, although we don't anticipate much really at this point, not like in years past. Remember, we used to come to you in July, well, actually close the books in August, and if there was anything that we thought that we could maybe add back of what we reduced, we would come back to you at that time. Okay, so this is really a year-long process, really, for all intents and purposes. It kind of, because it does change and adjust with the school department and with funding and other changes.
And for athletics, is that supported through other means as well? That's always been like a very...
That's always a combination between general fund and revolving fund, which is the fees. But the general fund has been taking on a much, much higher amount, you know, percentage of it over the years.
And what about the band and the chorus that have 400, like, they have like nothing? I mean...
Yeah, we don't have anything much going on with revolving funds with regard to that. In the chorus, we did have the middle school, although I think there was talk about possibly bringing that back. But we haven't had that, you know, like the program that we had maybe 3 or 4 years when...
And nobody cares about that? Nobody cares that that's such a low amount that, you know, we've cut programs so much? Like, it's just so sad that, like, you see no programming in here for after-school things.
Well, even the robotics club is talking about how they're working with less than other...
It's just...
but wait a minute, wait. On
That's what I'm
the
trying to
student
figure out.
activity funds, that's a whole different thing. You will not find that in the budget. The
Okay,
only thing
so
that's in the budget for
robotics-
student activity
right,
funds
robotics is one
the
thing.
student, the advisor.
But
The
band and
stipend.
chorus is something different. Like, we've cut. And I'm looking at this, and maybe I'm not seeing this
Yeah.
right.
Well,
but-
no, actually, the chorus was funded by, in a large part by fees. When they had, if you're talking about the middle school that they used to have.
Right.
At large, yeah, they have not had that program since then. If they wanted to, if they could resurrect that again, we would run it the same way that we did in the past.
Yeah, because we talked several years ago about how we have to keep this in mind, that one of these days, the people that we're doing all of the athletic funding, you know, the boosters and all that, we can't anticipate that we're going to have that kind of fundraising going on every single year. I mean, we did really
Oh, no,
well,
no,
but,
yeah, no, absolutely not.
you know,
Yeah.
I just hope that this is going to, I want to see these programs grow, these athletic programs and this band and chorus and the arts stuff, not just like after-school things, but like things, those are after school, but those are things that should be funded through the school too, as well. And again, I know it's an area of contention, but it's just so low for band and chorus.
Further discussion? You looking for a motion?
Feel set?
I have a question.
Okay.
So instructional supplies, I'm seeing two separate areas here that are showing some
What
significant.
page?
One is 17 at the top. And the other is 22. So are we using the general fund where we didn't before?
That's correct.
We're using
Yeah, we
it
had
more?
to, last year, we had to use, again, just because of the amount of school choice and depending on the budget changing, it was all school choice last year and not this year. I try not to use those smaller numbers if I don't have to. It is a nightmare.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I had to in FY '22.
I'm just wondering if there's another way that we can look at this, like, the next time we have to, or down the line, so that we can kind of see that, because we don't know if it's zero or if it's not, or if it's from somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, we could bring.
Maybe we can talk about that.
Make copies of the '22 budget that we can have, but otherwise, we would have such a long, it would be, I don't even know what paper we would fit it on. You know, to have it,
Well, I'm wondering if.
Maybe you had put a column in there, Courtney,
Of the actuals.
for like where it was in the FY '22, just label it came from general fund, funded from general fund versus school choice. I mean,
next to the 22.
yeah.
Or, yeah, but the other thing is, I hate to say this is a budget. What it really ends up being in the end, we move things all over the place all year long. You're just looking at what you approved that moment in time. The budget changes, all school department budgets change all year long.
I think
You
from
know?
our perspective, Courtney,
Yeah.
we want to see, did you spend $2,000 on books last year and this year you're spending $20,000?
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. Spending is a whole different, it's a whole different
So I
thing.
think that that's kind of
Yeah.
where our heads are at some of the time is like,
Yeah.
what are we approving for the expenditure so that if we as a committee could feel like, okay, why are we spending that much on that? And, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I almost think like maybe just a more broader level, like not quite to this detail unless there's more discussion to be had, you know? But like in the purpose of these meetings, I think like a overview where we can see a clear picture of where the pieces of the pie are going, you know?
Well, we did present that for the FY '23 budget, which is what we're discussing this
This
evening.
isn't the overview. This isn't the overview.
No, we had it up here as far as the overview.
Oh, yeah, that.
Oh, yeah.
That we
Yeah.
can make sense of, you know, quickly and within the time. This is hard to make that kind of connection, the connections to all.
Oh, yeah,
the
because this is a detailed,
so.
because you are voting on the details of the budget, the lines. That's all this document is for, the lines, just for the original approved budget that has to be, you know, a balanced budget. To go with what's we're hoping to be approved at town meeting. And then the budget's going to change all throughout the year, the actual expenditures. And at the end of the year, you get a report, which every single number, almost every single one of these lines will be different. You will get a report, and you do, on the
Yeah.
general fund, exactly what was expended for the year.
I would like to see it
No.
presented a different way. And I
Yeah.
think maybe we can talk about that at
Yeah.
another time.
It gets tricky in the way and I understand, I think I understand.
But we do have to have.
Yes, we do have to have a
something
balanced
like this, or we won't have a budget. We
Which is
won't-
fine
yeah.
to reference, but I think
Yeah.
if we don't have questions, if it looks, we're having questions about the big jumps that we see here. And
Yeah.
without having
Yeah, that's hard to see.
more
the-
information.
From the 22 to the
Yeah,
23.
when we're
Yeah,
having
that I
to
understand.
What gets
Yes,
tricky is
absolutely, yeah.
Some school
Yeah.
districts, we use our school choice and our grant money to fund a lot of our operating budget. And it varies from year to year. In districts that have greater town appropriation and greater state appropriation, they might use their school choice funding for what I'll call extras.
Yeah.
To purchase technology, to do additional field trips. So this looks a lot cleaner because everything's coming from the general fund, and the school choice and the grant money is used for those enhancements. We have to use school choice money to fund a larger portion of our operating budget. And then the trickier part for Courtney is,
I'm doing a full disclosure budget when I
Yeah,
present
yeah.
it to you. A lot of schools
Yes.
do not do that. They would leave out all the rest and just put a thing with only that. I'm trying to give you the full operating and every single line where I'm incorporating all of those other funding sources.
but to your point, you want to
No,
see.
but yeah, so it's kind of like a,
You want to
yeah.
see, I'll go simple.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
High
like,
schools-
have this is definitely useful, but like, what
Yeah.
are those, those other schools are having a quick glance kind of thing that helps them to really get a good sense just by looking at it for, 5 or 10 minutes. Like, okay, this makes sense to me. This is like code, But it's good to have.
It does get easier money.
It's good to have, but I think that there's
takes
another
almost
piece
3
that we
years, yeah.
need that we look at initially, and then if there's something we need to research, we'll use this as the source to research things,
Now, do you mean to collapse it? Would you want me to collapse it, like just put total school committee in that dollar amount?
Well, like I said, I think we could talk about it
Yeah.
another time,
Yeah,
I
just to
think,
see what, yeah,
because there's a lot of different ways to do it, I think, so.
yeah.
I'm done.
I'd be looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the FY 2023 school department budget as outlined in the FY 2023 superintendent's proposed budget, presented at the budget public hearing on April 6, 2022, in the amount of $14,608,089 for the school department operating budget and $1,899,430 for the school transportation budget.
Second.
Motion made by Lisa, second by Julie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question just for keeping our spirits up. Would it be possible to take all the job descriptions at
Yeah.
once? Like, if we all read the job descriptions, can we approve them as a batch?
I don't see why not.
Can we do that another time?
I read
Why,
them
it's
all.
only 9:30.
As long as, you list each one, I make a motion to approve the following job descriptions as presented. I don't see any reason why not.
I mean, of course, we can still have our conversation about it.
Oh,
I know I'm jumping out of order too. I just thought that might kind of perk us up to
Might perk us up to get
Yeah.
through the next piece.
do a light lift
I
before we do a heavy
completely
lift.
support you.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to talk about that? I'm taking over your job. I'm sorry.
Oh, you can.
Does anybody want to talk about the job descriptions?
Any conversation before we we looking for a motion? Any conversations? Are we looking for a motion?
All right. I move that we accept the Douglas Public Schools job descriptions for the following positions: Technology Director, Food Service Director, Kitchen Manager, General Helper Cafeteria, and District-wide Chemical Hygiene Officer as presented at the April 6, 2022 school committee meeting.
Motion made by Becky, second by?
Julie?
By Julie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
time.
Let's go back to the long-abated end-of-cycle evaluation for superintendent for Dr. Vera. It's in your packet. I thank everybody for providing me the input so I could put together a summary of all of our thoughts and ideas. I thank Dr. Vera for his blueprint and as well as his goals and objectives for the past year that was in our packet that we received on March 16th. From that, I was able to do an evaluation on everybody's input, and then I did an average. So what is presented here is everybody's input, and I tried to take everybody's thoughts and suggestions and put it in here as a collaboration. So for the professional goals, the professional practice goals, you made significant progress there. Student learning goals were significant progress. District improvement goals noted was a significant progress. And then we did the step back where we set the standards that we really wanted Dr. Vera to pursue for this year, school year. And standard 1 was instructional leadership, where he was found to be proficient. Standard 2 was management of operations. He was found proficient. Standard 3 was family and community engagement. He was found proficient. And standard number 4 was professional culture. He was found proficient. The overall rating for him for this year is a proficient rating. And then I put in, like I said, the evaluator comments, and here's what I wrote. I've taken the comments of all the school committee members, Ms. Lisa Brown, Ms. Becky Charnack, Ms. Jolie Molar, Ms. Monique Salvis, and Ms. Heather Moore, and incorporated their thoughts into each section as we reviewed each standard. The overall summative performance is an average of all the 5 committee members' input. While the school committee did not bring forth a professional practice goal, the body of evidence provided in the superintendent's goals and evaluation update presented on the March 16, 2020, that Dr. Vera presented shows a lot of professional collaboration and training that was achieved this year. Despite having to start his tenure in Douglas amidst the turmoil of COVID, Dr. Vera has proven to be a proficient leader. It cannot be overstated enough that Dr. Vera has managed the Douglas Public Schools during a global pandemic, with being mindful of getting the students of Douglas schools the best education during this historic event. He created a blueprint for student success with input from multiple stakeholders. Dr. Vera presented his goals and evaluation update to the school committee at the March 16, 2022 school committee meeting with details and evidence that the school committee utilized in this evaluation. Some noteworthy observations from the superintendent's goals and evaluations are as follows. For standard 1, for instructional leadership, his academic excellence shows the review and curriculum across grade levels to ensure it is accurate and meeting the needs of the students. The exploration of adding more courses across all grade levels and expanded after-school activities for students. The Pathway program at the high school, the partnership with Nichols College for leadership in online course in criminal justice, and the create and build upon the intra and intra-school connections and use of the model set forth in the acceleration roadmap to build scaffolds for student success. Standard number 2 was the management and operations. Throughout the 2021 and 2022 school year, the district will prioritize and the focus on health, safety, and social and emotional well-being of students, staff by offering programs, providing resources, and supporting members of the Douglas Public Schools in these areas. The well-being of all those through the expansion of school opportunities for students, create and promote school climate building activities for students and staff, continue to expand more morning meetings, homeroom, and advisory to support the social and emotional learning of students. Standard number 3, which was the family and community involvement. The blueprint for student success was created and presented at various meetings throughout the year. All school improvement plans were presented in November, speaking to add support to students and families. The Douglas Public Schools applied and accepted into the Massachusetts Family and School Partnership Initiative, changed the structure of the November conferences to allow for Zoom and in-person meetings to meet the families and meet with families. and meet with the principals on a regular basis to address needs as they come up and how to problem solve. Standard number 4 was the professional culture. Dr. Vera meets twice a month with his leadership team to address issues. Topics of conflicts are discussed. He has created a structure where principals meet once a week with building representatives to discuss building-based issues. Each principal submits a weekly report to Dr. Vera that highlights the issues with students, staff, and families, and if required, further to discuss if there's any issues. With this blueprint guide, the school committee has observed the expansion of academic and co-curricular programming during this past year. Focus on the next year's goals should see further language to include the regarding of how outcomes will be measured. Some suggestions provided based on the input we got from the committee members, focusing on academic achievements and getting kids to work to their potential. Teach kids to be confident. We saw a great example here with the robotics team coming up here and just nailing it with their presentation to us. Prepare kids for today and for the future. The blueprint to focus on kids in the middle school, focusing and figuring out course selection, time management, personal finance, etc. Greater focus on the community. Getting kids in the community is a win-win. Social and emotional needs of all of our students. It's greatly changed in a post-COVID environment, as we all have heard, and we've experienced as being parents. Finally, the Douglas School District is not perfect, but there are areas of improvement. However, Dr. Vera shared his vision for the district and is headed speedily and thoughtfully in the right direction. Allowing Dr. Vera to guide the Douglas School District by continuing to foster a collaboration with all stakeholders will direct Douglas Public Schools into the future it deserves. So the next section is the superintendent's performance goals. Again, this was taking an average of all of our input and putting it in. So for student learning goals, which was instructional leadership, which was our indicator, which was our SMART goal, he was significant progress. The body of evidence that we had that Dr. prepared for us at the school committee, again, I found that based on the information provided was significant progress. The district improvement goal, which was our student learning goal, as well was just instructional leadership. Again, he was proficient. This next improvement goal was management and operation, which was environment, which showed significant progress. The third goal, which is family and community engagement, which is the sharing responsibility indicator, which is our SMART goal number 3, significant progress. For district improvement goal number 4, which is professional culture, which is managing conflict, we showed significant progress. In each one of these standards, we then had to take a look and decide whether he was proficient, exemplary, or needs improvement, or unsatisfactory. For the most part, for each one of these standards, you will find the overall rating score is going to be proficient. For instructional leadership, there was one area where some of the members felt there needed to be improvement, and that was in the assessments. I'll just do the overall rating for it, as well as the areas that if there was an area for need improvement, and then do the analysis for everybody. Needs improvement, again, I already stated, was in the assessment area. Everything else, his overall score for instructional leadership was proficient. Dr. Vera has had much success in this area, focusing on instructional practices and curriculums in our school. By utilizing data and observations, as well as expanding and revamping program, e.g., kindergarten through 5th literacy. He has prioritized in-person learning during the challenges of a pandemic to the benefit of the district students. He has also made strides in professional development for the staff, as well as math professional development. Introduction of the STARS assessment and new literacy resources, the district is in a better position to not only meet the needs of the students, but to accelerate students' growth and learnings, especially after COVID. It is important to keep focus on students' outcomes and measure the benefits these new interventions have for goals, as well as increase the formal observations to give more meaningful feedback to teachers, while we'll continue to strengthen this goal. The next one is standard number 2, which is management of operations. His overall score was proficient. The one area was human resource development. It's on the next page. And the next page, will show this has been a challenging area during the COVID pandemic. While there's been made great strides in the social emotional learning, equity and inclusion across the districts the past year, there is still room for improvement. Dr. Vera could be more proactive in recruiting efforts as well as involving multiple stakeholders such as administration and school committee in the earliest stages of budget development and major curriculum changes. Ensuring properly staffed to engage the student population's needs, which is directly attributed to COVID, and keeping the school committee apprised of staffing issues, which could easily turn into a safety issue. Social emotional needs for a counselor and nursing shortage are just one of the examples. The continuation of face-to-face meeting with the superintendents to the students, the school committee feels is critical for further growth of the students getting to know the superintendent and vice versa, as well as having all principals, department heads, and staff in the district to embrace Dr. Vera's forward vision to take the initiative to be an innovative agents for continuous improvement. The next one is standard number 3, which is family and community engagement. Again, this area was overall proficient. There was no area that was noted for needs improvement. Dr. Vera has had communication with leaders and weekly reports from principals in each building, as well as monthly discussions with the DTA leadership, and has shared with the school committee members. He also does incorporate a weekly newsletter to the community as well. One area of concern that has been addressing family guardian concerns of protected classes. Family guardians concerns are an area of improvement, as the school committee has had more emails this past year, brings attention for additional help than in previous years. Family and guardians have not been satisfied with some of the district responses. The school committee has had to reach out to Dr. Vera for each family/guardian inquiry to find a resolution to their issue. This could potentially be a focus area for next year in addressing families' concern, which is in section number 3, number D, due to the rise in inquiries for the school committee has received this past year. This area here overall, he was rated proficient, but the culture proficiency needs improvement. In this area, all of the school committee understands the school did negotiate with 3 unions this past year, which has been challenging when taking into account COVID procedures as well as labor negotiations with the unions. Dr. Vera has made improvements in professional culture. There is still room for improvement. All the students in the Douglas School should feel safe in identifying with who they are, and zero tolerance from either staff or students by bullying anyone. Respect should be from staff as well as from students. We need to push for higher standards and academic success, as well as to adapt to the change for more proficiently. The superintendent can continue to grow in the use of collaboration and allowing their voices to inform his decision-making. Although it'll take more time, Dr. Vera has the ability to further unify all the school buildings and further increase the sense of community. And that his overall rating, and then again, was proficient. That is the end of my report. Does anybody have any questions? Dr. Vera, do you have any questions
I
from
just
us?
want to thank the committee. I read the report this morning when I got it, read it again this afternoon, and again prior to coming over, just to see everything. And it's spot on. You know, the areas that you identified of things that we've done well, but we all have room to grow and things to improve on. And the things that you highlighted are things that Courtney and I have discussed as things that we need to improve on. And when I read that, I'm like, yep, they're right. Yes, that's spot on. So I thank you for recognizing the work that we did. I thank you for recognizing the fact that we did do this in COVID. We did do actually 4 union contracts, not 3. So we did do the 4 union contracts. But the things that are in there that I need to improve on and we need to improve on as a district are spot on. So I thank you for, again, highlighting the good work that we've done, but also showing that there is room for improvement. We do have to be reflective in the work we do and highlighting that to set forth some goals for next year. So thank you. Appreciate it.
I just want to throw in another thank you to you too. This has just been a really impossible time, and I feel like things have been added to the district, which is already like a cherry on the top when you're just trying to get through. my husband and I are always saying, like, it's hard to be the boss, but it's especially hard to be the boss during a pandemic and during contract negotiations. So my hope for you next year is that not having all those negotiations on your plate will give you time to, you know, like, grow and build on your ties in the community and amongst the staff and the admin. And, you know, I think that potential is there. So hopefully you'll have the time and the dust can kind of settle from all of what we've all been through, that can happen.
It's been great. I started last month. I did it again this week, just meeting with kids. I meet with 2 from each grade, and just the ability to sit and talk to them has been awesome. And it was tougher last year to do, but this year going in and meeting them, they've been so honest. And it's funny. I met with middle school kids, and some of the same themes that happened in March came up in April, and the same exact thing at the high school. Courtney's not going to want to hear this, but they want to bring back at the high school the honors breakfast donuts from Uxbridge. That was like one of their big things. Can we please have the good donuts? I'm like, wow, this is their biggest concern. We're doing pretty good, right? But they, you know, it was great to meet with kids, and I've talked to Josh and I've talked to Bob about some of their feedback. And it was, you know, some of the things we can change, but one of the things they brought up was, you know, talking about how we can get more kids involved, how we can do more activities. So their perspective and their lens of what's going on is awesome. And one thing I'm going to do next year is I'm going to try to do a coffee hour once a month with parents and invite them in and do coffee. I'd rather not do it virtually. I'd rather do it live. So that's one thing I'm going to try to build upon for next year, is just have that coffee hour once a month, first Thursday of every month from 9 to 10, do coffee, and just be able to have the opportunity to have people randomly come in, sit, talk, chat, connect, and just meet some new people. So looking forward to bringing that next year. But thank you for this, and thank you for your comments.
I think you also have a unique ability, and it wasn't in this because there wasn't really a place for that, but I think you have a unique ability to connect with all different kinds of people. Like, and I'm not just talking like kinds of people, I'm talking like the little kids, the 3-year-olds, the 4-year-olds, and then on up into the high school. And I think that's great because kids in high school, they don't always want to connect with like the staff and stuff like that sometimes. But you also have that connection with the adults and the staff. And I mean, in my personal opinion, I think you have a presence too, and I think that's great. I just wanted to add to that, and I think that's great because we all know this is like a district where you can come in and you could have decided, you know what, this is it, I did it for a year. Now I'm going to move on to somewhere that maybe I don't have to commute as much or whatever. But I'm glad that you appreciate our feedback and we appreciate your feedback and you sticking it out. And
Thank you.
I think you're good for the district, honestly, and I think that it's good to have somebody stick around for more than a year or 2 years. It's good to have a little bit of consistency, obviously, especially during a time like this. So I thank you for sticking it out.
Yeah, I'll just say, I love that everything's in the realm of possibility with you, which is, really great, because, we don't know what the future holds. We just know we want to move forward, and a lot of these things we're trying for the first time, and you're bringing in some new things that nobody else has ever thought of, and when we brought things to your attention, it's never, we just can't do that. It's I always have the impression that you're going to give it some more thought. Let's give this some more thought, and so that's what I appreciate. And, also, resonating with the little kids. I mean, I have kids in the elementary school, and, my son was telling me one day that, his teacher wasn't in for a period, and I said, oh, really? Was another teacher? No. And it was the guy in the suit. And I said, oh, okay, you get to meet. Yeah, I was like, that was cool. I'm
Called a lot worse, so I appreciate that.
I was I knew exactly who he was talking about, but he said it was a good experience. Yeah. So thank you very much for all your hard work, and I can't wait to see what next year brings as we hit the ground running on all these goals.
We still have 20% of the year out there. We still have about 40 days left. I was doing I was in a morning meeting, I think in 2nd, 3rd grade, and I think they were at day 138, and they were doing the math to subtract the 150, so 180. We're getting close to that, but we still have a lot of year left and a lot of great things to look forward to. Josh highlighted the prom next Thursday, which I'm excited to go to. Senior Week's coming out. We got to get through MCAS, which is what it is. But there's still a lot of learning left to do. And this year was tough, and we all know why. There were a lot of obstacles for us, but we got through it, and like you said, we can sail forward now, going forward, which I'm really excited for.
And it should be noted, the reason why we're doing your superintendent's evaluation so early is we have 2 school committee members coming off, and so it wouldn't be fair to provide feedback for the new 2 members that potentially come on board for them to evaluate without them being here for the past year. So that's the reason why we went ahead and did it early. So.
I will be, watching from the Cape. And I do look forward to seeing the progress that's going to be made here. I know it will. It was like we were kind of on a path, and then COVID hit, and we had to, and you have the same kind of vision that we had before COVID and before you came in. It's your own vision, and there is some new stuff on it too, but it was like we had a momentum, and then
Stopped.
And now I think, will take it forward the way it should have been if COVID never happens. So I'm looking forward to seeing it from afar.
Thank you.
No more COVID. No.
Okay. Anything else? Nobody else has got anything else? I think we're good on that. We're going to move to the approval of the school bus transportation invitation for bid
To vote
contract.
to approve,
You have to.
Do we need to do that?
if you vote to approve the evaluation.
Would you like us to amend it to say 4 negotiations? That's accurate. Amended to say 4 contract negotiations.
Sure. I don't want to be accused of leaving on one of the groups.
Right? Which one is it? Okay. I move to approve the superintendent's evaluation, end of cycle summative evaluation report for the superintendent
As presented.
for FY22.
Yep.
Yeah.
Motion made by Becky. Second by Lisa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And thank you,
And there's a
Heather.
couple of
Yes,
typos.
thank you,
I'm gonna
Heather.
fix it, and I'm gonna, then I'll get you to, I'll sign it, and then you'll be able to sign it, so we'll have it for your documentation. I have the backup documentation that I used as well, so, just to let you know. All right. Next one, approval of the school bus transportation invitation for bid contract.
Yes, the district issued an invitation for bids, an IFB, for school bus transportation services for in-district, regular, and special education students, with bid proposals due on March 29th, 2022 at 10 a.m. The IFB was advertised as required on the state's Goods and Services Bulletin, Combis, which is part of the state's Operational Services Division, Worcester Telegram and Gazette, the Town Clerk's Office, Central Office, and the school district website. 8 vendors were sent or requested the bid document. Some of them were actually bus fleet sales companies, not actually bus transportation service companies, but we did receive only 1 bid, and that was from Telstone and Son Inc., who is our current vendor. Getting only 1 vendor to bid, unfortunately, for school bus transportation services has been typical for most bus bid procurements. Telstone has been with the district for many years and has provided excellent service to the district and our students over those years. We are very pleased to have them for our vendor over the next 3 years and possibly for up to 5 years. The following was a bid proposal for July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. For FY23, it was $1,126,800. That was an increase of 3.3% over FY22. FY24, $1,165,500, an increase of 3.43% over FY23. And FY25 is $1,215,900, an increase of 4.32% over FY 2024, for a grand total, for which the bid is awarded, $3,508,200. I do want to state that those percentages are extremely low compared to what others are getting. Others are getting double-digit increases. The bus per day add or delete for a 71, regular passenger bus increases are over the 3 years, 3.41%, 3.3%, and 4.26% respectively. The district also has the option to exercise at our discretion 2 additional extension years. The bid price increases for those years are 6.14% and 3.97% respectively. And again, those 2 additional years is 100% at our discretion, and I have done it in the past that, you know, I can try to negotiate with them for a lower amount when we go into those 2 additional years. But again, excellent price. Does anyone have any questions? And I did provide to you their, as backup, their bid proposal form.
Well, it doesn't look like we have any other options, so.
Well, but the good thing is that they have an excellent vendor for us for many, many, many years, and very happy that they did bid, or we might be without a bus company. So that would be a problem. And, you know, like I said, the rates came in, I was actually quite shocked. Yeah, that it was, you know, pleasantly surprised, I should say. That's a better way of putting it.
Any other discussion? Yeah, I would just like to say, if there's a way to just recognize them for what they've done during the COVID, and just the fact that they bid on it, I was expecting it to be much higher too as well. I think all of us were. They have been a wonderful stakeholder for the community, and just the support they've done to transporting all of our students in town.
And the graduation,
And
when we had that thing at the early childhood center, we had that carbon monoxide thing. They were Johnny and they came immediately. Bus never charged us. I mean, a number of times they've
stepped
been
up.
there for us.
So if there's a way that we can do a letter of appreciation for them, I know I will definitely sign it if any of the school committee members would like to sign it too. I do think, you know, they are valuable. They're a stakeholder in our community.
I think that's a wonderful idea. We've done those letters, you know, internally, but that's a wonderful idea. And I'm sure they would appreciate it.
So I mean,
I really do.
So that's just my 2 cents. If anyone else has got anything else.
And actually, I did, before we leave, I did actually think, to your point, Heather, I was thinking that I would actually love to have them come to a school committee meeting. Have them come to a school committee meeting.
I would
And I
love-
was thinking that as well, like, once they got voted, because they really have been, in so many bus companies, they don't have drivers. I mean, Neil will get on a bus to drive, his son will get on a bus to drive. I mean, to keep, you know, where other districts, they don't have drivers, and that's basically it. They
It's
don't
not-
have a driver, you know?
To me, it's
Yeah.
that community that we're trying to build, and this is one of the stakeholders that are in our community that is, when we need them, they're there. And so, if there's a way to recognize them, bring them towards.
Yeah,
I'm all
I would
for it.
love to do that. If you
Oh,
were,
yes.
I would love to do that, because I actually thought of that. I would love to do that.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I've been in a couple of different places and worked with various bus companies. The first month of the school year with busing, everywhere I've been, is a nightmare. And I remember starting, and I talked to Courtney, she's like, Paul, don't worry about it. I'm like, I have to worry about it because it's always a nightmare. She goes, they got it under control. And that's been my experience in the 2 years here, that the issues that I've seen in other places that I hear from colleagues, we are so lucky with what we have and the level of service they provide and the attention to detail and the care. And there's nothing scarier than that first couple of days of school, kids at bus stops, and then being at the wrong bus stop or not having the bus. It happens. It's been seamless, and that's work from Courtney, Neil, and Jessica that do a lot of work to put that together. So they're awesome. I'll end with that.
So are we looking for a motion?
I move to approve the school bus transportation service as bid and contract to Telestone and Son Incorporated beginning July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025, with an option to renew for 2 additional years pursuant to the invitation for bids proposal of March 29th, 2022 made by Telestone and Son Incorporated for the grand total amount of $3,508,200 for the 3-year contract.
Motion made by Julie, second by? Second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
The EFDA charge and collection of payment for school meals policy, it's our third reading. If anyone, does anyone have an issue with this? I'd be looking for a motion.
I make a motion to approve the Douglas Public Schools charge and collection of payment for school meals policy.
Second.
Motion made by Monique, second by Becky. All those in favor?
Aye.
The JLCCB life-threatening allergy policy statement. This is our third reading. Anybody have any issues with this or comments? Be looking for a motion?
I move to approve the JLCCB life-threatening allergy policy statement.
Motion made by Becky, second by? Second by Monique. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I think that closes out our portion. Now we turn it back over to Courtney for the school business and operations management report.
On the agenda, there's the approval for the one-year contract and the three-year contract for the Douglas Teachers Association. We're going to table that.
Right.
And then we're going to have to add a school committee meeting for next week for that.
Next Wednesday?
Is everybody okay to do next Wednesday?
I'm not free next Wednesday. You're not either.
So let me send out an email to you all and then come back and tell me what works next week.
We could do it via Zoom since there's only one
Yes.
thing on the agenda.
I can be.
Is there a meeting
Been
during
extended.
vacation, too?
Excuse me?
Is there a
There's
meeting
not.
during vacation also?
No.
There is
Oh,
not.
Okay.
The Zoom has been extended through, I believe, the middle of June, so
Or July, I think even.
it might be July.
Could we do it on a non-Wednesday?
Yes.
All
We
right.
could do it on
Okay.
Wednesday.
We
Just
can
remember,
figure
we
it
have the prom on
Figure it out. If you guys will just email me what's your
Okay.
availability next week, and then I will scuttle between like all of us, and we'll make it work
Yep. Okay.
on that. So over to Courtney for the school business and operations management report.
I do have one thing, I know it's late, but I do have one thing I did want to let you know about this evening. I'm sure you've all heard about, the La Nina weather pattern that's affecting, the drought, and it's affecting the food and the increases in food, and that's been a big concern for myself and the food service director, Raquel Hammond. Had a lot of discussions about it, a lot of emails, pretty much come every single day to both of us, so it's been kind of frightening. Good news is that we did receive a payment from the state for the food service, actually is to be deposited in the revolving fund in the amount of $29,097.63 to help with the supply chain issues. It can only be spent on food like milk, dairy products, cheese, yogurt, fruits and vegetables, 100% juices, grain products, pastas, rice, things of that nature, which is pretty much all we can serve anyway, right? No candy. So we were very, very happy to get that. We did receive the funds already. They're to be deposited in the revolving account and expended for those purposes between now and the end of the school year. So that really helped us a lot. We had a lot of concern. Prices have gone up dramatically, so it helps tremendously with that. So I just wanted to let you all know that. We're very happy to receive those funds.
Are those local goods or, do we do any local stuff, like CSAs or anything like that? Has that ever been?
What do you mean by local? I mean,
Considered-
from a procurement, we're required by law to do procurement, and we go through the educational cooperative bid process.
Okay, so you can't look at local food production?
No, not that I don't know what you mean by local food, but we can do,
Like
there
farms,
are.
like local farms
Like
that
farms,
do
yes,
CSAs
absolutely.
or anything like that?
Absolutely, and Raquel is very, very big on that.
Yeah.
So, yes, there is a program that the state actually encourages. And when you said local food, I didn't know if you meant like the local supermarket, I'm sorry.
No.
Definitely with farms, absolutely.
Stuff
Try
that
to get
cuts down
fresh
on
produce.
transportation, gas, oil, all the stuff that's driving things up,
Right, right. The only problem is that as far as the main growing season is during the summertime. And none of that food well, we don't even have the program running during, the summertime, but, as far as fresh produce and things, but anytime that Raquel can utilize farm products at local farms, absolutely she would. She is great that way. And remember when she came here, she talked about even hopefully starting a program with hydroponic, growing our own lettuce actually as a district.
Yeah.
Which was wonderful too. So definitely all that is absolutely on Raquel's radar. Absolutely. We would love to do that.
We have to do executive session.
Anything else, topics not anticipated?
No.
We do need to do an executive session.
We haven't posted for executive session, so I don't know if we can hold one since we haven't posted for it, because we have to post 48 hours for it, so
For executive session too?
for executive session as well.
Yeah,
So
on the-
what
yeah.
I would recommend is
Next
prior
week.
to our next school committee meeting, we do an executive session before we go into open session.
So we should figure out 2 times to be able to meet.
So if we did.
One
yeah, so-
for executive session, one for the follow-up.
But one day, but we meet earlier.
Well, we could do it one of two ways. We could do executive session on a, if we could have the time, executive session on a Tuesday, school committee meeting on a Wednesday, or we could do everything on a Wednesday and do executive session from 7 to 8, then school committee meeting from 8 to.
Do you think we can do it in an hour? The executive session? Could we
I think
fit
we
it in
could
an
do the
hour?
executive session about in an hour, yeah.
Okay, all right. Could I just add, I don't know if this is out of order, like the piece for the agenda on the district website, if we can make sure that that's up, as soon as the posting is posted. I feel like it's just,
So, yeah, so it gets, I thank you for emailing me. It gets posted on the town's website.
Yeah.
We need to do the second piece of it, which is make
Yeah.
sure it's posted on the school's website.
yeah. And just ease of access to that information. Even the budget was there, but I had to scroll to the bottom of it. If there was a way to link it so that you can see the meeting sort of right at the top where the calendar is. I mean, if there was a way to link the pertinent documents right to where the meeting is on the calendar or something like that, instead of scrolling to I see the Twitter stuff and that's cool and everything, but I had to go all the way to the bottom of the page, and it wasn't on the subset link of school committee. So
Correct.
sort of the intuitive places to find it wasn't there, so.
you.
Okay, nothing else? Be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the April 6th school committee meeting at 10:11 PM.
Motion made by Becky,